across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. Or is it, given the news that we've been having lately? But we're going to do our best to make it a very good morning for you here at Talk, the home of common sense, with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. And whether you're listening on DAB+ radio or on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or watching on your connected device. I don't really understand the connected device thing, I'm going to be honest with you. But either way, it is absolutely fabulous to have your company. I'm with you live until 1. If you miss anything of the show, miss anything from the rest of the week and you want to catch up, go to my YouTube page, Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. And apparently some clever people in social media post things. If you hit subscribe, you never have to miss a thing. Coming up in this hour, bet you can't guess what we're talking about. Yeah, of course you can. The migrant sex offender Hadush Hakabati, who was mistakenly freed from jail on Friday, has been deported back to Ethiopia last night, according to Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood. Hadush Hakabati was wrongly released from HMP Chelmsford on Friday, instead of being transferred to an immigration removal centre, resulting in a 48-hour police manhunt. How wonderfully convenient that he's gone already, and it's PMQs in a couple of hours. It's almost like when they really want to deport someone quickly, they can. And by the way, as a foreign criminal being deported, he would have been entitled, as they usually are, to a £2,000 payment to get on a plane. I kid you not. Anyway, also, at the same time, of course, we found that news out, we were already taking in the horrific news about an Afghan national who entered Britain illegally on a lorry, who was arrested yesterday after a man walking his dog was killed in a triple stabbing. The 22-year-old murder suspect was tasered and arrested minutes after the killing in Uxbridge, West London on Monday. Neighbours say the 49-year-old dog walker, named locally as Wayne Broadhurst, was repeatedly stabbed after he intervened to stop a 45-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy from being attacked. Both the man and the boy are being treated in hospital for very serious injuries. If you've seen the video of that, we're not allowed to show it on our station, but if you've seen the video of that, the brutal, frenzied stabbing of a man who, by all accounts, according to neighbours, was a passer-by walking his dog, a local bin man known to everybody and a very friendly, lovely guy, who was basically intervened to try and help a man and his son who were being chased by apparently this suspect, and he's lost his life. And this man arrived here in 2020. He was granted asylum, we understand, in 2022, and he's here from Afghanistan, and now he's behind bars on remand. Well, thank God for that, but why was he here? Why was he granted asylum? More and more information is going to come out, and let's face it, this keeps on happening. I want to hear from you. Just what is your reaction? I'd love to give a different question, like, do you think the Home Office is not fit for purpose? Well, of course it is. I mean, there's only one answer to that. Even the Home Secretary admits that. Have we lost control of our borders and our streets? Well, yeah, there's only one answer to that as well. What do we do about it? What are your thoughts? Is this now the defining issue of our country? Give us a call. Tell us what you think. 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. You can also get in touch with us at Talk TV or on X. And of course, calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost £1, standard network rate message. We're also going to be talking about Labour cracking down on the 4-day working week by rebuking the first council to adopt it. South Cambridgeshire, which permanently adopted a 4-day week this summer, giving bin collectors and social housing officials 100% of their pay, paid for by you and me, remember, for just doing 80% of their contracted hours. Because, of course, it makes people so much more efficient and happy and they get their work done better. Except, of course, the proof is that they don't do that. What a surprise. Some 23 other councils are looking at doing that. Love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Plus, the government has slashed forecasts for the amount of electricity it expects wind farms to generate. Bit of a blow to Net Zero Secretary Ed Miliband's net zero plans. Officials said they were revising down the predicted efficiency of wind turbines by more than a quarter as a result of updated modelling. Yeah, basically, wind doesn't blow enough a lot of the time at the right amount, not too much, not too little, for us to rely on wind. So we can't really base all of our energy policy on it. I know some of us have been saying that for quite a long time, have we not? So much to talk about. Don't forget, as I say, PMQs in less than 2 hours' time. Peter Cobb will be in with us to give us some analysis of that. It's going to be a sticky wicket once again for the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. I'm delighted to say joining me for the whole show there is Claire Pearsall. She regularly does on a Wednesday, former Conservative government advisor. And no booing at the back, please. She used to work at the Home Office. Good morning to you.
Morning.
I mean, it was always rubbish, even when you were there, wasn't it? Come on.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
There we go.
Absolutely.
I like honest politician or political types.
Why would you say anything otherwise? But no one's done anything about it.
It is, I mean, it is completely absurd. We had John Reid, Labour Home Secretary, 2006, was it, saying that the Home Office is not fit for purpose. There were various bits that were sort of slightly taken away and moved on. But at the end of the day, it's a massive unwieldy, a huge unwieldy department that is clearly utterly incapable. We know that from every Home Secretary who's been in there that it's the civil service are basically working against the policy of the government. Doesn't matter who's in charge, doesn't matter who the Home Secretary is, and they basically will not do the will, certainly, of the people. And the only solution from the government really is to just shout racist, bigot, xenophobe at everybody, far-right activists, etc., tell people, you know, don't post on social media, and then just hope it all goes away. And it's not going away. And I find it extraordinary. We are in an economic crisis. We are, 4 or 5 weeks away from a budget right now, which is going to be devastating for our economy. Once again, just like the last one, we got a Chancellor who has not a clue what she's doing. She's as bad at writing budgets as she is at writing an honest CV, for goodness sake. So, and we are facing serious economic crisis. There is a lot of talk from people who know their stuff that we are in territory that most people simply do not grasp how bad it is and how bad it could be. And, you know, one little thing, we could be in seriously dangerous territory. And yet, the biggest issue, by the way, people are still waiting years sometimes for operations, life-saving operations for cancer treatment and the like. And yet the biggest topic again and again is migrants, migrant crime, migrant crossings, the cost of housing migrants, failure to deport them. That is quite telling. Now, is that because the nasty, racist, right-wing, bigoted media is stirring it up and people are being stirred up? Or is it because it is now such a big, huge, massive, enormous problem that we cannot ignore it anymore?
It's exactly that. We can't ignore it. We shouldn't have been ignoring it for the last decade. But we have, and successive governments have always tried to do something about the number of people coming into the country and the workforce and everything else. But what has happened is that we are letting a lot of people into the country. We're letting them stay. We're not removing them. We're not removing them when we know where they're from, and the fact is they don't have leave to remain. We still don't get rid of them. So I don't understand why it's been allowed to get to this point, despite everybody shouting. And you're right, the minute you start pointing out that certain crimes are undertaken by certain groups of people, you just called a far-right racist bigot, you need to get back in your box, everybody's welcome. Yeah. Well, no, everybody is not welcome.
Or, you know, sort of the left-wing media spew out some completely skewed numbers about, you know, for instance, on the grooming gangs. Oh, we said the majority of sex crimes are not committed by Pakistani and Muslim men. No one said they were. The grooming gangs, that was the issue. But also, again, the rate of criminality, particularly sex and violent crimes, among people from arriving, legally or illegally, largely illegally it would appear, from certain countries is off the scale. Yeah. It's off the scale. Unfortunately, these countries where we are mostly seeing people arriving by boat, why are they getting these boats and paying channel smugglers? Because they wouldn't be allowed in otherwise. Precisely. Because we don't want them. And we don't want them. We don't want them to arrive. We don't want them to stay. We don't want to pay for them. We want them to leave. And the government seems totally incapable of that, unless it hits the front page as any individual. And then they, do. And this is the issue. People are saying, we're done now. I have said for at least a year, this whole, let's get migrants out of hotels thing ain't going to work. They're not going to get them out of hotels and send them home. No. They all send them back to France. They're going to get them out of hotels and put them in military barracks with the gates wide open. They're going to put them into local housing, competing with local families for that housing. They're going to put, and also being dispersed. So how the hell do we know who these people are and where they are? That's not the solution. And the government solution, we talked about this on air yesterday, is basically, can everyone just shut up? Just shut up. Yeah. Stop talking about it. Yeah. But calling everyone names, doesn't work anymore because the facts are before us. You see these videos, you see what's going on, you know the facts, you can see the convictions in the courts. This week alone, so we've got, Epping migrant who had to be deported because, after committing his crime, sexually assaulted 40-year-old. We had, we've got this Afghan, okay, he's a suspect. We need to be very clear. He hasn't been charged with a crime, but, there was a crime, it was committed. This is a man who's been arrested. He's an Afghan, given asylum. I can't wait to see the documentation on that, on how he won asylum or what his case was. And then we've had another case, and again, there's so many. I can't even remember the names of a migrant who stabbed to death with a screwdriver a worker actually in the hostel where he was living. So that's just in the last few days.
Yeah,
the stories that have been in the news.
And there are more. There was other stabbings that have taken place in London, which the suspect yet to be identified. And you just sort of think, because the details are so lacking, you know full well what the story is going to come out.
Certainly it's very noticeable. After the Axel Ruda Cabana and the Southport attacks, we did get that information out very quickly yesterday, that this was a man who the suspect who was an asylum seeker. He was from Afghanistan. He'd been granted asylum, so he was here legally. But again, we're still paying for him. We're still paying for him.
Do you know the bizarre thing is when the Home Office confirmed that, yes, indeed, he did have asylum in the United Kingdom, but they were very quick to point out that he wasn't in hotel accommodation.
Yeah.
Well, so what?
Yeah.
The fact is that he's still here. He probably shouldn't be, and we're paying for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just mind-blowing. And again, I advise you not to look at the video, to be honest with you, of the stabbing of this poor man, this dog walker, Wayne Broadhurst, by all accounts, really popular local figure.
Yeah.
It's just horrific. But, but it does kind of, tell you something. And again, I don't think with social media now you can shut a lot of these stories down.
No.
Because although we're very limited, in fact, people online don't realise how limited they are in what you can do. And again, you really, really, really do need to stick to principles of justice and innocent until proven guilty. It might work out for you one day, all of us one day. But people can see it before their eyes, and there are lots of witnesses to these things. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, she's tough words over the Epping ex-offender being deported and just vile crimes and the like. We know now that Gabatu was detained and then released in Ethiopia. He's arrived in Ethiopia on a plane overnight, but he's now been released in Ethiopia. He only served 3.5 months. That was including on remand.
Yeah, but this is the problem.
I'm surprised he got sent to jail at all, actually, given that it was... but that's the thing. As terrifying it would have been for the 14-year-old schoolgirl in a school uniform being sexually assaulted by him, this wasn't the worst sex offence.
No.
That's the reality on the scale of things that you would be terrified of happening to your 14-year-old daughter. Yeah. This is probably the least of your worries. But I'm amazed, frankly, he even got sentenced to any time behind bars at all, given how lax our justice system is now. Yeah,
so was I, and I think this was a lot to do with the pressure put on by the local community that said we aren't going to stand up for this, and it was a prolonged set of protests that were taking place.
But again, why do things only happen if people are protesting? Yeah. Why does someone only get deported? Because let's face it, the Prime Minister's got PMQs. And he's going to have to face questions on this. And he had a really tough one on the grooming gang scandal last week. And he's going to have another tough one on this. And he's got not a leg to stand on. And frankly, with all due respect, Prime Minister, let me advise you right now, because I know you're probably not watching or listening, but you'd probably learn a lot more than you do if you did. Put down the Guardian, stop watching the BBC. You might learn something here. Don't say, well, this all happened under the Tories. Yeah, they're useless. And that's why they're no longer in power. Read the room, but blaming it all on the Tories. We know they were useless. That's why we got rid of them. You saying they're to blame for stuff that's happened under your watch? Sorry, mate, not going to fly. But the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is basically facing a backlash, we're told, over plans to house up to 900 migrants in army barracks, concerned about the impact on local communities, particularly one of them's actually, in a town. And this whole thing, they're going to shut down these asylum hotels, but everyone's going, yeah, but we don't want these people anywhere. That's the issue. The solution the government has isn't actually a solution. However, we have seen this crackdown. This was obviously their big announcement for the week. Government crackdown on illegal working, takeaways, food delivery, beauty salons, car washes. Home Office data showed there were 8,232 arrests of illegal workers in the year to September. It's up 63% on the last year. It's the highest rate on record. 11,000 raids in immigration enforcement, which sounds like a lot, but is probably not, as many as there should be, because clearly an awful lot of these people are able to work illegally and they just go back to afterwards. But the key thing here is these people, they're working illegally. They're not supposed to be here. Like, what happens to them? Are they all instantly put on a plane? No. We carry on paying for them. They probably all at that point instantly claim asylum, don't they? But the key thing is, you need tough punishments. And you worked in the Home Office, you need tough punishments of the people who employ them. Yeah. And it needs to be not a fine, it needs to be imprisonment. Yes. It needs to be, there's no sodding way I'm going to employ you without a national insurance number and passport or visa showing you can work. Otherwise, I'm going to have 10 years behind bars. That's the only way that you stop this from happening.
It absolutely is. In my day, the fine was, I think, between 10 and 20,000. It has gone up. Yeah. But to a company, that's neither here nor there, when they can just get another worker coming in the following week and it needs still another 10 more after that. But the wording of the legislation is always really bad, because it said could face a prison sentence, could have a fine.
And up to.
Yeah. It's like, should.
No, really, really simple.
Will.
But again, do you have a photocopy? I remember, my daughter was getting jobs, over the summer. Yeah. Genuinely had to produce passport, national insurance, not even just a number, she had to produce the actual document. Yes. And then she, travelled out, they were so strict about it. So, come on, that's what good employers, not that they were a particularly good employer, I have to say, even that was for a 0 hours contract. But, it's not hard. I had, when I had childcare, when I first went back to work, I had to see the passports of the nannies. I need to know where are you from? No, precisely. You're not. So you're not EU. Well, then I can't employ you, and you're not even allowed to legally work here.
And that's the problem. And you're right. And my son's had the same thing. He's nearly 17. He's had to produce his passport because that was the only identification he had. He was asking me for his birth certificate because they needed that as a backup. Yeah, 17, born in London.
If only he had a digital ID, then it would all be fine. But then there wouldn't be any illegal workers. There wouldn't be any.
But it would be a fine and pleasant land.
I think we've just missed a trick there. If only Tony Blair he'd been right all along, could have had digital ID, and none of this would have happened.
Morning,
okay,
Tony.
Please, morning, Tony. do just check on the sarcasm font on your screen. But anyway, let's for goodness me, let's talk about Keir Starmer there. Bit of a problem. Polls not looking good. I know, we're all shocked. But we mentioned on the show, he came out yesterday, this Ipsos survey found the Reform UK leader was seen as a better candidate to be in charge of the country by 33% of voters over Keir Starmer, who's only got 30%. 1 in 3 people think Keir Starmer's the best person to run the country. Shake your heads, people, shake your heads. Even allowing for immediate family, I don't even understand. I don't even understand how they've got to that number. But basically, there's no doubt at all. There's trust in handling the economy. That's a big issue. And the Tories actually come out ahead on that amazingly still. Yeah. But actually, who you think would be a good leader is often there are 2 or 3 questions that are very indicative of how someone is going to vote. So they might say, I'm going to vote for this party, but actually if they think X is a better leader, they're more likely to vote for them on the day when they've got their pencil hovered over the voting slip. So what do you make of that poll?
Well, unsurprising. Normally, the Prime Minister of the day is particularly unpopular at any given point because they're making decisions that are going to upset at least 80% of the country at any given time. Well, that's beating our record. The Conservatives were, at least we had sort of 14 years before everybody absolutely hated us. So
we definitely started hating you before 14 years.
I'd like to think in my little world that everyone loved us for a lot longer. But to be honest, if you were given the choice of would you vote for Sir Keir Starmer or would you vote for a pigeon, I would suggest that the pigeon would win in that poll too.
I'm probably better at PMQs as well, to be fair. Well, also we're looking at Labour down to just 17% of support of the party, down 3 percentage points from last week, and basically putting Keir Starmer's party on the same level as the Tories, just 1 point ahead of the Greens at 16% and 2 points ahead of the Lib Dems. Yeah. The Greens, they are seeing a resurgence. They're getting a lot of play. There's a lot of sort of left-wing Labour people people sort of moving to the Greens under Zach Polanski, whose views are almost without exception utterly insane. I mean, and dangerous, I would say. People have to understand. It's one of those fascinating things, and I think this is really important. It's something that Nigel Farage needs to do, and I think also the Tories as well, which is to reframe the debate, because, we're talking about this Overton window and where people are on things. So you can get a Labour Home Secretary saying some of the things Shabana Mahmood says. I mean, the world has changed. But it's this idea that somehow Nigel Farage or Kemi Badenoch or Robert Jenrick are extremists. No. People who think that everyone should be on welfare and that you should, tax people's, taxing people's houses because they've got a better house than you, that you should basically impoverish the company with mad green energy ideas, that you should be telling children they're born in the wrong body and offering, girls that they can have the right to, cut their breasts off at 16 and take hormone blockers. All of the, and that you should have open borders and just hand out money to anyone who wants to come to this country, wherever they're from. That's the extreme view. Yes. Saying we'd like to have, safety on our streets and safe borders and our children to be protected and not propagandised, and we'd like to have cheap and affordable energy so businesses can grow, we can afford to heat our homes, and old people don't die because they're scared of putting the second bar on fire in the middle of winter. No, that's not an extremist view. These are moderate mainstream views. I'm constantly told, you're far right or you're even right wing. I don't even think I'm right wing. I think I'm mainstream moderate. I think my views represent the views of the majority of people in this country, and they are absolutely. I want people who are disabled, who can't work temporarily, to be given all the help they can. I want help for families and that. But no, I don't think that half the population should be on welfare. And I don't think people should go to prison when they commit crime. I think our borders should be safe. These are not extremist views, and they're being portrayed on the BBC and in a lot of the media as extremist right-wing views. I meet lots of left-wing people who agree with all those things.
Yes, and that's the real difficulty about it, because they're just normal, basic standards for living. Yeah. I don't think you can put that as either far right, far left, or in the middle. They are just basic standards. The rise of the Greens is quite frightening in some respects, because they are so incredibly left-wing, and I don't think people realise.
No,
they think they're a nice, fluffy sort of save the polar bears. They're not. They really are not. They don't want anybody to have any wealth. They don't want people to have property.
No freedom.
No freedom whatsoever. But young people are flocking to them. And my son
I've said this many times. Young people are idiots.
Yes.
Hi, young people. No, they really are. They're not in the real world.
No, they're not. And my son said that all he sees when he's on TikTok are the Green Party adverts, a few of Jeremy Corbyn's outfit, name yet to be... Yes, Jespler. And sometimes the Liberal Democrats.
Yep.
And that's what he sees. And he said, and they keep coming up. He doesn't search them out, but that's who they're targeting.
Yep. They absolutely know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Luckily, young people don't bother voting.
Exactly.
So you can lower the voting age to 16 as much as you want. They don't bother voting, but they're being propagandised in our schools, which is another reason why I don't want 16, 17-year-olds to vote. That and the fact that they're kids.
Yes.
If I can give you a curfew about what time you can come in and you're on my payroll, you ain't an adult. It's really that simple.
It's
really. Yeah. If I get to say what you can and can't eat, you're not. You're on the back. Sorry, you're not an adult. But anyway, can we just talk? We should. About Hurricane Melissa hitting Jamaica as a Category 5 storm, going down again. Now heading to Cuba now, making landfall in Cuba, Category 3. But we are talking about huge winds. I mean, just no structures possibly be able to withstand them. We've got some, 500,000 people in Jamaica without power still. We've got some pictures coming out, but there isn't that much, and it's only just getting light. And we've seen some horrific damage. There are some 25,000 tourists there. I think 7,000 of them are Brits. And there ain't going to be a flight out until at least tomorrow at the earliest, people being rescued. But I mean, just horrific damage done. But as always, of course, the loonies get on with the climate change. There are hurricanes, and there will always be hurricanes. There's no evidence that hurricanes have increased in number or in ferocity since the Industrial Revolution. There isn't any evidence of that, but they'll still claim it.
Oh, of course they will. And this was from a meteorological point of view, the most spectacular thing. I mean, I've been following it for about a week. I'm one of those sad individuals that really likes extreme weather.
And you're not in it.
as long as I'm not in it. And I feel incredibly sorry for anybody that's been caught up in this, because there are going to be people that lose everything.
This is a poor country. There's a lot of poor people.
Absolutely, and they have been hit so hard. 185-mile-an-hour winds when it was coming across. And I was watching the press conference yesterday with the Jamaican ministers. They're so much better at this than we are. They really are.
They only had to do it last year as well. So,
but they were so matter of fact, and you couldn't imagine Keir Starmer or Yvette Cooper standing up there having that kind of
I am just
attitude.
waiting to be told at some point in The Guardian or the BBC this week that it's all our fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, if it wasn't for us in the Industrial Revolution or something to do with colonialism...
Too many flights.
It's definitely our problem. It's definitely, you know, but my heart goes out to ordinary Jamaicans desperately trying to, you know, keep their homes and keep safe, because goodness knows what that death toll might be. Hopefully people got to safe ground and people are safe, and tourists as well. But, yeah, our heart absolutely goes out. And I've got even more worries for Cuba. I've been to Cuba and you know, that is not a country well prepared. That said, you know, the totalitarian states can often weirdly handle some of these things better. Who knows? No, but that's the thing. Because you do what you're told, because otherwise there is a penalty. But yeah, very, very sad news. We'll keep you posted on any developments as they emerge from that horrific hurricane damage. Right now we're going to take a quick break. We're going to take your calls coming in thick and fast. I wonder why we're all surprised by that. 0344 499 1000 on just the latest horrifying, terrifying, awful toll of basically the arrival of migrants in this country who've just got no right to be here. This is Talk.
There is a nauseating irony listening to Sadiq Khan, this pious, horrible man who for so long has deflected, failed to answer the question as to whether there are sexual grooming gangs operating in London. And now, of course, the Metropolitan Police are telling us that they've got 9,000 cases they're looking at.
She's almost there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:31 is the time. Let's go straight to your calls. 0344 499 1000. As migrant sex offender Hadish Gabati has been sent back to Ethiopia. He's gone, but we've had another illegal arrival from Afghanistan, granted asylum a couple of years ago. He's been arrested for a triple stabbing that left a dog walker dead in the most horrific, frenzied, brutal attack. Let's go to April, who is in Shropshire. Hello, April. What do you want to say?
Hi, Julia.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for calling.
I was horrified to hear about that terrible attack and murder in Uxbridge on Monday, and to hear that grandmother telling us how they're all living in fear, how these illegal immigrants are being allowed to hang round the Cherry Lane primary school, leering at the little children. I mean, that is just so evil. How bad has it got to get before this government can be held to account for what they're doing to this country, the damage they're causing? Don't they have any legal duty? Doesn't a government in this country have any legal duty to protect its citizens and keep them safe? They're doing the opposite. They're importing unknown men, some dangerous, and placing them in our community and putting us at risk.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. April, you need to be doing P&Qs today. But that's the thing. How many is too many? You know? Yeah, that's the thing. Exactly. So how many rapes, how many murders, how many... And again, of course it's not all migrants, certainly not all legal migrants, and it's not all illegal migrants. And some of those people will be genuinely desperate, although not desperate as they leave France, but genuinely desperate to not go back to their home countries. But not the vast majority of them. I'm sorry, I don't believe that anymore. But also, the key thing is, like, what percentage of violent criminals do we think is acceptable to import?
None of it.
Yeah, exactly. Zero is the answer.
But what can we do? How don't the government have any legal duty? They all lie to us on their manifesto. He said he'd control the borders, improve the financial situation, and look what they've done. The opposite.
Yeah, we can't. Well, the only way we hold politicians to account is we vote them out. We make it clear that as we did with the Tories. Let's face it, that's what's going to happen to Labour. I can't see any way there. I mean, goodness knows there'd have to be a miracle for them to stay in power next time round. But I mean, this is the thing. I mean, the only way we can hold them to account is with our vote and with our voices, and people being out on the streets peacefully. Absolutely, it's got to be peaceful protest. Then they have to pay attention. We don't let this go away, and we don't move on to the next story. That's the reality. April, thank you so much for your call. I think so many people have been nodding along to that. I really do. James is in Staffordshire and wants to have his say. Good morning to you, James.
Good morning, Julia. I have three questions to ask. I'm obviously thicker than an MP, I've got to say.
It's quite a low bar.
The first question is, Germany's in the ECHR. Germany deports people to Afghanistan. So do we have a better human rights chasing ambulance lawyers, or do they not have any at all?
Good question.
So how can they deport them and we can't?
Yeah.
The second question I have to ask is that, according to Rachel Reeves, all of our financial woes, including migration, are down to the fact of Brexit.
Yep.
So if that's our problem, why is Europe such a basket case and full of illegal migrants? So if that's what's driven by that,
and their economies as well,
absolutely, I mean, their economies really be much worse. And then the third thing is why do we grant asylum to people from holiday destinations? So we've got people from Tunisia who were stabbing somebody in Warsaw, same from Algeria, Egypt, etc. So I mean,
I suppose if they are being politically, if someone had been involved in like the political opposition in a country like, there's not much freedom in a lot of those countries for political opposition. That's different. But again, basically, it's people who say, I just don't want to live here anymore, or it's people fleeing conscription from some of the countries in Africa. And it's like, well, like Eritrea. I'm really sorry you've got conscription. You're a horrible, horrible country, but I'm not quite sure how many of the young men who are being conscripted we should take.
Yeah, I mean, the ones to Afghanistan, that really baffles me. I really think, they kick and scream and the left go, how dare you try and deport some poor fellow back to Afghanistan, and the rest of Europe can do it.
Yep, I mean, all pertinent questions, James. Let me put those to Claire Bissell. Thank you very much, James. Claire, I mean, they're all reasonable.
They certainly are, and I think the problem with Afghanistan is that we just don't have an agreement to be able to fly into the airspace and deliver the person back. I think
your plane has to be able to actually get there.
You have to be able to get there, and you have to ensure the safety of the crew that are on that plane, because you can imagine that you're dealing with people who aren't entirely trustworthy in that country. So you want to make sure that your own crew gets back out again. So that will be that. That's the only reason. There shouldn't be any other problem other than paperwork.
And she worked at the Home Office. She knows 10:36 is the time. We'll take a quick break. I'm going to put some of those questions to Martin Littlewood, who's going to be up next and talking about this. And what happens? Is this going to be the defining story of Keir Starmer's premiership? Because it kind of became the defining story, didn't it, of the last Prime Minister as well. And we're going to be talking about the latest net zero lunacy. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:39 is the time. Let's go straight to Martin Littlewood. He's Director of Popular Conservatism and joins us to discuss all the big stories of the day. Good morning to you, Mark.
Julia, good to be with you.
I mean, you know what we're going to start on, the latest spate of migrant stories. I mean, it is utterly mad. We've got Hadoush Gabati, a migrant sex offender, deported back to Ethiopia after a mistaken prison release and two-day manhunt. Very conveniently, we now know he's back in Ethiopia, although apparently detained and then released, we're told, by the Ethiopian authorities. 3.5 months is all he served behind bars, on remand mostly, after the sexual assault on a 14-year-old girl. But of course, very conveniently, it's all been announced this morning ahead of PMQs. The Prime Minister doesn't have that to worry about. He does, though, have to worry about the fact that a dog walker trying to help a man and a 14-year-old being basically by allegedly, being assaulted and attacked and stabbed by another man. He was knifed to death in the most extraordinary frenzied attack in Uxbridge in West London. Turns out, Afghan national arrived in the back of a lorry, granted asylum 3 years ago. What do you make of both those stories?
Well, they speak to a common problem, don't they, Julia, that Britain is broken and our authorities can't seem to run a bath. That's the common problem. I mean, the Kabatu case is utterly extraordinary because this isn't just about asylum and immigration. We somehow accidentally let a sex offender out of prison, despite the fact that reports suggest he sort of pointed out the clerical error. I think he's made a mistake here.
Yeah,
I want to be deported. I think I should be in prison. No, you're all right, mate. Here's a bit of money. Go on a day trip to London. That's what the British authorities managed to do with it. So that is an extraordinary litany of failure. In the second case, about which we don't know quite so much now, it seems to touch on the point that if you arrive here illegally, we should not consider your claim. That would have prevented the person from being here. We don't know all of the remaining circumstances. But yeah, we are clearly importing some dangerous people.
Yeah.
I think you were mentioning earlier in the show, Julia, it's not all of them. Not every Afghanistani or not every Afghan or Ethiopian is going to behave this way. But we know from the statistics a disproportionate number do. And I can't believe anything's going to be said at PMQs that is going to assuage the fury, anger and concerns of the British people.
No,
We've
indeed.
got to
And
completely
certainly
reboot the system.
on the case of this man, the dog walker, bin man, by all accounts, a very popular figure in the local community. This is Wayne Broadhurst. He's named by neighbours. That that someone's been arrested, and so the Prime Minister, as a former Director of Public Prosecution, say, look, as you know, I can't talk about a live case. Yeah, the thing is, we're all talking about it. It's all over social media. People can watch the frenzied murder on their screens. I mean, that's what worries me, is that stuff is now available. We can see it. But to a certain extent, if I had read just the BBC report of that story, I wouldn't have a clue what had actually happened. And I wouldn't know very much about this suspect. But the other reports and what I see online, and you'll be able to verify when they're verified by journalists. And again, there's a lot of stuff online that isn't true. We know that. But then you see the full picture of what the neighbours, what the witnesses, what other people are saying. Very, very different from how it was reported. A dog walker was attacked by a man. It just doesn't, should we say, portray the full ferocity of what actually happened.
It's not just about the ferocity, though, I don't think, Julia. It's also about being completely frank with the British public about the nature of the assailant.
Yeah.
It's nearly always a man rather than a woman, right? Well, let's also clarify whether they are an asylum seeker or a migrant, or are they a native British citizen. Let's clarify ethnicity. All of those things, I think, need to be clarified. And too often we pussyfoot around and say, I don't know, a 34-year-old man is in custody without giving the specifics of it.
A 34-year-old man from Uxbridge.
Yes, exactly. Well, Ruda Cabana was described as a Welsh man, wasn't he? Which I suppose is only sort of technically true. I don't think the British public would say that accurately described the totality of his background. So there's far too much pussyfooting around in actually describing the characteristics of the assailant. And describing those characteristics does not in any way prejudice a trial.
No.
It's just public information.
Look, to me, again, I'm really not sure, the colour of someone's skin is relevant, but certainly their nationality is relevant, their immigration status is relevant, because again, my thing is, we've got enough wrong-uns of our own. We don't need to import more. And we do seem to be having a lot of people coming illegally from countries where, as you mentioned, the statistics are very clear. And it's not just in Britain, it's in Denmark, it's in Sweden, it's in Germany, it's in France, it's in Austria, it's in Germany, all these other countries. When you look at the actual stats, the criminality rates, particularly sex offending and violent rates of crime among certain groups from certain countries are off the scale.
Yeah, that's right. And I wonder, and you're quite right, Julia, it's nothing to do with skin colour or race, it's to do with nationality. And I wonder whether we need to bring in a system that starts in its early assumptions by treating people to tougher or easier questioning depending on which country they're coming from. By way of example, I'm not aware that there's too many Canadian immigrants going around murdering people or sexually offending people, not too many of them. So if you're applying to come in from Canada, we might have rather softer line of questioning than if you're coming in from Eritrea or Afghanistan or Ethiopia.
But you know the human rights lawyers and the liberals,
that seems reasonable.
People will shout racist. No, it's nothing to do with colour. It's to do with the culture and the norms of the countries people are coming from, and that is the reality, isn't it? I mean, let's talk about the words. Look, this is a big issue for the Prime Minister. He's facing, the Home Secretary's facing the flak on this, and she's only been in the job a matter of weeks. He's certainly facing the flak, and he's only been in the job for 15 months. But he's got the latest poll woes, a Survation poll showing that more people, by a small margin, think that Keir Starmer would be a good Prime Minister. Sorry, that Nigel Farage would be a good Prime Minister over Keir Starmer. Labour down at 17 percentage points in the polls, alongside the Tories, only 1 point ahead of the Greens, for goodness sake. Reform record levels, and we've got the budget to go. There ain't going to be any good news in a month's time in the budget on the 26th of November. It's going to be worse news, not better. Can you see any way out from this government?
Nearly impossible to imagine, isn't there? I mean, I suppose that's why rumours are starting to swirl about whether the Labour Party will deem it a smart move to ditch the Prime Minister and go for a different leader. But that doesn't magic away all of these problems. You've still got the problems with the economy bouncing along on the floor, taxes and regulation being too high, spending out of control, migration out of control. And I don't think they've got the political will to fix these problems. I mean, every time I look at the opinion polls, Julia, and they are just a snapshot, and there's probably, 3 to 4 years to go before the next general election, it does seem that we are going through a major realignment in British politics, doesn't it? For the Conservatives and the Labour Party to have 34% between them, when in normal circumstances they would be on about 34% each, is extraordinary. And as for that poll about would you prefer Nigel Farage as Prime Minister or Keir Starmer, I think actually an awful lot of British public debate now is, do you want reform and Farage or not? And the nots are lining up in the Labour column or the Green column or the Liberal Democrat column. Probably the Conservative column is a bit not sure. And the yeses are lining up in the Reform column. Yeah. And we really are seeing a change in party allegiance and party politics, the like of which we've not seen a seismic shift like this for 100 years since the British Liberal Party collapsed. And the intriguing thing is the two main parties over the last 100 years, the Conservatives and the Labour, are both collapsing. That's most unusual. Well, usually when one of them's on a downswing, by definition, the other is on the upswing.
And it's an absolute lack of faith in their ability, the mainstream parties are known, to get the job done. Why? Because they keep failing us. Mark Littlewood, fascinating analysis. Thank you. Always good to talk to you. He's Director of Popular Conservatism. This is the thing, Claire Pearce. I mean, you've still got, your party leader, Kemi Badenoch, is still, down in the doldrums as well.
She is. And then the most ridiculous thing that she does is try and out-reform reform. So you have this knee-jerk reaction that you're going to be reform practically on steroids. And it's like, but why would people vote for the Conservatives when you've got reform already? And if they're happy with that messaging, then they're going to go to them. They're not going to come to the Tories.
You guys ain't getting back into office by appealing to the Lib Dems, because you know what the Lib Dems do? They vote Lib Dem.
Precisely. And this is it. And until
so where do you go?
Until the Conservative Party understands what it is, what policies it's going to have and how it's going to grow up again, they are a bit doomed.
Well, certainly, I agree with that. 10:48 is the time. We're going to get to more of your calls. Don't forget, coming up, I want to hear more from you. 0344 499 1000. We're going to talk about Hurricane Melissa. Going to talk also about the morning after pill being available free, on demand at your local pharmacy. But is that actually a good thing or not? We'll talk about that in the next hour as well. Up next, though, we're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to be talking about the impoverishing everybody, taking us back to the pre-industrial age Secretary Ed Miliband and his latest problems with wind. This is Talk.
We're almost there.
But it is also true that the previous Conservative government, and indeed governments from Boris Johnson down, always refused to say China was an enemy under the mistaken belief that in law an enemy is a country we are at war with. But that's not true. An enemy is a country that means to do us harm, that subverts us, that spies on us. That has been our definition of an enemy since 1911.
There is a...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the Home and Common Sense. 10:52 is the time. Let's talk about the plunging us back into the Dark Ages Secretary, Ed Miliband, and his problem with wind. Rupert Darwell joins us. He's the author of Green Tyranny. A very good morning to you, Rupert.
Good morning, Julia.
I'm being a bit naughty there, aren't I? But you know, the man needs to be mocked because he really is a danger to our country. He really is. But look, let's talk about why Ed Miliband is in the news today and what is the problem with wind.
Well, as we know, the problem with wind is it doesn't always blow, does it? And therefore, if you're relying on wind energy, your electricity supply is going to be intermittent. And if you want to keep the lights on, it means you actually have to have a parallel system of gas-fired, nuclear, coal even, power stations to keep the lights on. That's the fundamental problem with wind.
Now, the government, they've slashed forecasts for the amount of electricity they expect wind farms to generate. And we're told this is a blow to the net zero plans, but documents published before an auction of green energy subsidies this week, officials said they were revising down the predicted efficiency of wind turbines by more than a quarter. As a result, they say, of updated modelling. And this is the problem, isn't it? If the wind doesn't blow, you don't get any wind. And certainly the last few weeks, I mean, we've had quite a few weeks where there's been very little wind and where the wind turbines are, and so they're not generating anything. And if it blows too much, they have to be turned off. I mean, it's mind-blowing. Yes. But a quarter, I mean, basically saying they're going to produce a quarter less than they thought they were going to produce.
Yeah, there's Professor Gordon Hughes of Edinburgh University has done a lot of work on wind turbines, and especially offshore wind turbines. And the problem with wind is two things. One is, as we've talked, the wind doesn't always blow. But the other thing that's less well understood is that wind turbine efficiency degrades over time. And his estimates of how quickly they degrade are both more accurate and more pessimistic than the ones used by, you guessed it, Julia, the wind lobby and the civil service.
But the thing is, these things cost a fortune. They're made in China using coal-fired powered factories. They're then shipped over, on oil-powered or diesel-powered ships. They come here. They're massive, big constructions. They use a lot of rare earth metals and things. But they don't last that long, do they? And we're not quite sure what we're going to do with them when we're finished with them. Is it about 10 years they last maximum?
Well, perhaps 15 if you're lucky. But remember, Ed Miliband, in the next allocation round for the offshore wind, is going to give them basically 20-year guaranteed prices paid for up by us, incidentally.
So they get 20. So it doesn't matter how inefficient they are, and if they're not used, they're going to be guaranteed the money.
No, they're guaranteed the money for the electricity they produce, or the electricity they say they produce when their power output is curtailed, which is another bit of the bit of the scam.
We know Richard Tice, the Deputy Leader of Reform, he's made it very clear. Look, all these subsidies, all of this stuff, we even when we get into power, which is, 2029 is not that far away with long-term planning, you ain't going to get any of this stuff. So good luck, bid for whatever you want, but we are going to tear up those contracts. A, will they be able to do that? And B, is that actually hitting those bidders?
Well, the other thing to take on board is that the wind industry globally is cratering. I mean, it really is over. So the biggest wind operator, Ørsted, the Danish company, has got a €9 billion rights issue, equity raise, because it's in dire financial trouble. And also the penny's dropping that offshore wind is completely absurd. It is absolutely crazy to put these massive wind turbines out somewhere in the middle of the sea in a very harsh operating environment where they're very difficult to maintain. They degrade very quickly. They get faults the whole time. It's absolutely an insane way to generate electricity.
Because I would have thought, you know, having them in the sea was better than having them. I mean, I absolutely hate it when you're driving on beautiful countryside and you can see wind turbines everywhere. I'd rather they were in the sea over there. But you say, if practically it doesn't work, it's almost like, I'm going out on a limb here, Rupert, they didn't think any of this stuff through.
It's a con. It's basically a con. And the thing is, the reason why the government was conned and the political class was conned, because they use blackmail, emotional blackmail, moral blackmail, which is, if you don't do this stuff, you are going to destroy the planet.
Think of the
You're
children,
ruining
Rupert. Think of
it's
the
for
children.
The kids and your grandkids and all that nonsense. It's just pure blackmail, and that's what made it happen. So anyone who said, put a question mark over this, oh, you're imperiling the future of the planet.
That's the key thing, isn't it? And we've got this massive big, you know, black hole, apparently, I mean, 50, 60, what is it this week ahead of the budget in a month's time? But at the end of the day, we're not getting out of anywhere unless we actually start increasing our GDP and actually producing stuff and selling stuff. And no one can do that in Britain at any good profit because they can't afford their energy operating costs. And that is because of the fact that we are relying too much. Yeah, net zero.
Now, this is a really big point, because wind power is far less efficient, i.e. it's less productive than fossil fuel power stations. So if you remember in the last Conservative government, we had Lord Alok Sharma going around the country blowing up coal-fired power stations. Yeah. And what that does is pushes up costs, and it crushes the economy's productive potential. Yeah. So that's why we're in the mess we're in.
I mean, you can either have, you know, economic prosperity, or you can have your net zero madness, but it's one or the other. It really is. Rupert Darwell, you've always been a great explainer of these things. Thank you so much. Author of Green Tyranny, Rupert Darwell. Your lot and the Tories were just as bad on this. They really were. Theresa May, I mean, genuinely one of the worst prime ministers ever in history. I mean, genuinely on this. But this lot are even more. Yes. Absolutely obsessed with it. But the reality is biting now.
Well, of course it is. And you only have to look at the weather event over in Jamaica at the moment. What are they running their houses on currently? Generators. Diesel-operated generators, because when all else fails, fossil fuels are the only things that work.
But people are still trying to do that. Was it some claim, according to computer modelling, it's been so right so far, it's 500 more times likely that you're going to get these Category 5 hurricanes. But it's just, they literally make this up. You put rubbish in, you get rubbish out. I could come up with a computer model that said it was 1,000,000 times more. It's utterly meaningless. They're either increasing or they're not. They're not increasing in Frosty, they're not increasing in number. You occasionally get some really, really bad storms, and otherwise you don't. And you know what you do if you've got industrial economic power? You're able to build stronger homes, stronger buildings, and keep people alive, which is why when these things happen in richer countries, not many people die, and not so many buildings are damaged. It's really that simple. Industrial revolution, you're welcome, the world. We gave it to you. We're coming up to a quick news break. More from Claire, more from me, your calls as well. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very, very good morning to you. Welcome back to the show. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 11 o'clock. This is Talk, and we are the home of common sense. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Thank you so much for listening, whether you're on DAB Plus radio or your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device. I always appreciate your company. If you do miss anything from the show, don't forget you can go to my YouTube page, the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show, and hit subscribe. You never have to miss a thing. Like, if you all just hit subscribe and so you never have to miss a thing, I don't have to keep talking about it. Then I'll stop saying it at the beginning of every hour. It's your choice. It's your choice. It's like a teacher. Remember the teacher used to say that to you? It's like, it's your own choice. It's your own choice. It's your own choice. That's why you've all got attention. Anyway, I don't know why I'm laughing. There's no news to laugh about today. Claire Pearson's with us. She's a former Conservative government advisor. And I mean, we're trying to be cheerful given the madness of the news we're in right now. But of course, we're going to be talking about the migrant sex offender Hadush Kabati. He was mistakenly freed from jail. You remember on Friday, he's been deported back to Ethiopia. According to the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, he was wrongly released, of course, from the Chelmsford prison on Friday. Why do I always start sneezing when I'm reading out my... Oh, I do apologise, everyone. Instead of being transferred to an immigration removal centre, 48-hour police hunt later, now they've managed to deport him. He's already arrived back in Ethiopia. Apparently he was... I've seen a headline saying he was detained and released. Oh, good. Oh, good. He could just start his journey back again with the £2,000 no doubt we've paid him. I'm sure they said they haven't paid it to him. He's certainly entitled to it. If you're a foreign criminal, you're deported, you are entitled to £2,000, basically, to agree to get on the plane. That's basically what it's for. Added to that, although of course there would have been a real hope for the Prime Minister that his PMQs is starting in less than an hour's time, that great, that guy's gone, we can move on from that. Well, no, not really, because an Afghan national who entered Britain illegally on a lorry was arrested yesterday after a man walking his dog was killed as part of a triple stabbing. Now, the 22-year-old murder suspect was tasered and arrested minutes after the killing in Uxbridge in West London. Neighbours say that the dog walker, a local bin man, very popular with local people, was named as Wayne Broadhurst, was repeatedly stabbed. Now, you may have seen the video, and there's some horrific footage which is available online of him being stabbed in a frenzied attack. But he'd intervened to stop a 45-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy from being attacked. Both that man and boy have sustained serious injuries in hospital. Added to that, the government's done a crackdown on illegal working in takeaways and food delivery services, hot beauty salons, car washes and the like. Home Office data showed a 63% increase in the number of arrests of illegal workers. But again, what do you do with them once they're arrested? That's what we want to know. They say that this is all part of the pull factors of people working in the gig economy. What you need to do is imprison anybody who employs someone illegally for 10 years. That'll focus their minds. We're also going to be talking about Hurricane Melissa. It's hit Cuba now after wreaking havoc in Jamaica. Downgraded now to a Category 3 storm, though it hit Jamaica as Category 5, causing absolute devastation. It's one of the most powerful Atlantic storms in recorded history. 185 mile-per-hour winds and whole towns left underwater. 500,000 people left without power and 25,000 tourists stranded as well. We'll get you up to date on developments there as we get them. As I say, Claire Pearson's is still with me, and we've got to go back to the main topics of the day, and it's amazing how often, week after week after week after week, and it's not because we're all obsessed with migrants because we're all xenophobic and we all it's because these are the stories in the news. These are the stories that people talk about in the pub, on the street, in the office when you're getting a coffee. And the migrant sex offender Hadush Kabati finally being deported to Ethiopia, another illegal arrival from Afghanistan, granted asylum. I say I cannot wait to see the circumstances for him being granted asylum in 2022, but he's been arrested for a triple stabbing that left a dog walker dead. I mean, these stories are both incredibly worrying, but they are not the only ones. Are we in kind of... Has the risk of illegal migrants being in this country, has that now been exposed to such an extent that no government, whatever their political hue, whatever rosettes they wear on election day, can possibly ignore it ever again?
I think we are getting to that point. This case in particular, I didn't want to see that footage. It came up on social media.
Yeah, I didn't choose to see it.
And it was horrendous. And that poor family now... has lost a loved one, and it was horrific, absolutely horrific. I do think it's useful for those who believe in open borders to see this and say, this is the problem with what you want. This is
on you.
This is on you. And it isn't. It's not every Afghan. It's not every Eritrean. It's not every Sudanese person. However, predominantly, you look at the crimes committed. You look at the ethnicity of those individuals.
Or the nationality.
Or the nationality. And it's going to be
keeps coming up. The stats are very clear, and the stats are clear across every European country that's had a large influx of migrants from certain parts of the world. And it's nothing to do with skin colour. No. It is to do with the culture of the country where they come from. And if you come from a country where violence is the norm, where sexual violence is the norm, where women are second-class citizens, and where you resolve issues with a knife, then I'm sorry. I don't think I'd like you here. Let's not pretend we don't have people like that here already.
Of course.
Born and bred, many generations in this country. But we don't, frankly, if we could do a swap with those people and get rid of them, we'd happily do that too, wouldn't we? Yes. The reality is, though, we're stuck with those people and we need to get them off our streets and stop them offending and get them behind bars. But it's not an argument to say, well, people from Britain commit those crimes, so what's the problem with importing more? Because we don't want more. We don't want those people.
And it's the whataboutery that becomes really pathetic, because we know full well that our own people are more than capable of committing pretty heinous crimes. But they're our people, and we will deal with them in the way that we do in this country. So that's irrelevant to what's happening with those people who are coming into this country.
Without any concerns about community cohesion.
Yeah, I don't care really what colour, ethnicity, nationality, sexuality somebody is. If they're a wrong 'un, they're a wrong 'un.
Yeah.
And they need to be dealt with.
I'm interested in nationality and immigration status, because I don't think anyone should be in our country who is not an economic benefit and socially a benefit to this country, and who is completely. I don't even want. I think if you're a guest in another country, I think it's probably a good idea for you not to even get speeding tickets. Sorry, yes. I mean, I'm not saying you should be deported for a speeding ticket, but certainly if you're doing like 100 in a built-up area, I would, like, because you're actually a danger to people at that point. But you have to understand, if you're a guest in someone else's country, as you'll know as a regular viewer or listener, I do like my holidays. But when I'm in other countries, I am aware I can't be me. Stroppy, sharp-elbowed Julia doesn't really work in a lot of countries. I'm not one of those people who goes, oh, look at me, my British passport. They're very excited. I do have a new British passport. Doesn't have EU on it anywhere. Get in. Absolutely love it. But it is you can't just behave as if you own the place, because you don't. It's not your country, and you have to abide by the laws and the norms of those countries. That's the deal. And if you don't want to do that when you come here, bye.
Precisely. If I went to some of I like quite sort of Middle Eastern countries, and I do abide by their customs because I'm a visitor, and I fully expect. No, but I've chosen to go there.
Yes, that's my
behaving
rule.
myself.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, then I needn't go there. That's quite simple. But then in return, I expect people to come to this country and abide by the laws.
But I think the issue is there's an expectation lots of other countries that people do that, and yet it's like sometimes when they say someone's going to get 20 years because they've bought in a heroin or coke, and we're all supposed to feel sorry for them. Like, no, but you knew the law, or even the death penalty. I don't approve of the death penalty. If you take drugs into Singapore and they've got the death penalty for bringing drugs in, and you did it knowingly, basically, you're banged to rights. I'm really sorry, and I feel really sorry for your mum for having. I mean, but no, I'm not going to campaign on your behalf. I mean, usually these people do get a lesser sentence; they come back to Britain. But at the end of the day, you chose you choose the crime, you take the punishment. It's as simple as that. But we do have the problem we've got in this country is not just these people who arrive here who are a danger to us. It's the fact that we have a whole class of, talk about the lanyard class, or the liberal wokerati. They think they're progressive. They are not. They think they're liberal. They are not. Who seem to think that there is a certain level of damage to our community. There is a certain level of crime, of sex crime, of violent crime, of economic crime, illegal working, that is somehow acceptable for us to be a, quote, welcoming, nice country. They are utterly delusional about the realities. They are delusional about the economic cost of legal migration. They've been lying to us about that for years. When it was blatantly obvious, we invite like a few million extra people to come to the country, and somehow we got poorer, not richer. Well, just do the maths, guys. It didn't work, and now it's beyond any doubt at all that they're not on out. The average arrival in this country, certainly from a third world country, is not an economic benefit to this country. On the contrary, they are a massive, massive drain. And these people they're in charge, right? They run the Home Office, run the Foreign Office, they work in Number 10, they run the NHS, they run our schools, they run all the unions, they run local councils. These people are in charge. They run every quango set up by Tony Blair to keep himself in power effectively forever, no matter who was elected by the people. They run all these organisations. They run in the EU, running all that, and basically they're deluding themselves, they're lying to us, and this is why we're in the mess we're in. Do we solve this mess with these people still in charge, is my question.
Well, the short answer is no, you can't solve it with them all still in charge, but you've got to work out where they are, because they do hide in these charities and they hide behind doing good, and people believe them. And I think that the public is now understanding quite how the UK is set up, who works in which office. They know a little bit more about the beliefs. And if you're a civil servant, by the way, you shouldn't have political beliefs on show. So I think that needs to be cracked down on. But when will people realise that you can be kind? It doesn't mean you have to accept what is coming across and what is happening.
But also, who is it your job to be kind to? Because I think your duty of care has got to be to the British people and to the safety, for instance, of young girls first. I think the safety of someone walking their dog along the street, not to be faced by a knife man chairing after a 14-year-old boy and a man, and apparently a woman was also a potential victim, and you try and help them and you end up stabbed to death in a frenzied attack by someone who never needed to be in this country. But I'm sorry. Who do you want to be kind to? To pick a side. I choose the British people every time.
But these people will also live in an area where they're not bothered by this level of immigration.
We love multicultural. We've got a lovely deli at the end of the road.
Yes,
it's terribly
good. Lovely Italian couple.
That's how these people, they do. They absolutely live in cloud cuckoo land. The Lanyard classes are part of the problem, guys. They really, really are. Let's also talk about Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary. I mean, she talks a good game. She's, she's pretty impressive. I do worry. She's been on some of these pro-Palestinian marches, and I do have a concern that a lot of people get into that job in the Home Office, even like Yvette Cooper. They talk the talk, but actually they don't believe what they're saying. Bit of a backlash now over wanting to house migrants in army barracks. Again, we talked about a lot on the show yesterday. This idea that the solution to the problem is geography.
Yes.
If it is geography, if the solution to the migrant problem is geography, it's global rather than regional. It's not what kind of hotel or house or barracks you're in. It's whether you're in the country in the first place and whether you can leave that and walk on the streets.
Is this the same Labour Party that when the Conservatives suggested housing migrants in disused army barracks, they told us we were evil, nasty, horrible individuals? That just to make sure that I'm remembering this correctly. But all they're doing is just moving the problem. You're right, and they're moving it en masse. What they're doing is taking hotels and then putting 900 people instead of 200 people into one area with no control.
And they think that we're not going to notice anymore.
But they are underestimating
this. They genuinely do not get how angry people are. And I was saying on the show yesterday, and I keep saying it, they think the solution is that we all shut up.
They do, and hysterically, when you look at the likes of the places they want to put them, Crowborough, for example, in Sussex. This is one of the disused army camps. And a news channel went and interviewed a lady on the street and said, what do you think about it? And she was the most well-spoken person who said, absolutely not. And I was quite frightened. I think she used to be a former head teacher because she was one of those, absolutely not. This is ridiculous. We're not having it. We're putting our foot down and we're going to mobilise.
Yep.
And you think,
they will.
Fair play to you.
And everywhere they try and put people, which is why they want to dissipate them into the community, we won't know where they are. Brilliant. Well, we will know where they are, unfortunately, when the next sex assault happens. That's the reality, because people are tuned into it now. it's not looking good for Keir Starmer on the polls. He's down to 17% in the polls alongside the Tories, your lot, same level. I mean, we talked to a guest a bit earlier, Mark Littlewood, and he pointed out, I mean, it used to be the case, actually, the two main parties, Labour and the Tories, would command 80% of the votes, certainly in recent years. And again, we've had a lot of major realignment, 2010 going to go into coalition government, 2015 back to normal. And I mean, the death of the Tories, the death of Labour, we keep hearing everything and it changes. We are in a very fluid situation in our politics. But we see, Labour and the Tories just 1 point ahead of the Greens, as we discussed earlier. Terrifying, because they are properly nutty. They're basically communist, all intents and purposes. I mean, maybe the British people need a bit of a dose. Maybe all those 17-year-olds who are going to vote for them need a bit of a dose of, because my view is like, you're the guys who are not going to have jobs. You're the guys who the economy's going to be. I'm 57. I'm hoping a lot more years, but I'm all right now. But you won't be. So good luck with that. But these polls are not looking good. Keir Starmer now less preferred than Nigel Farage for Prime Minister, by 30 to 33 for Nigel Farage. Do you think there's any way back for Keir Starmer?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because when you look at this, I don't think we've ever polled as much as we have in the last 3 years. I certainly don't remember polling on a pretty much daily basis prior to that. And if you ask anybody on a certain day, are you happy with what's going on? One day there might be, the next day absolutely not.
It's a snapshot.
It depends. Yeah. So yes, if you look at it, there probably is a way back. Do I think that'll happen? No, really, because I know the people involved and they're not that good. But also other things will happen.
Claire's not hoping for a seat.
Do you think? I think they should.
That's why we have you on, because I like your honesty.
You have to be honest about these things, because the Conservative Party...
What's the solution? Who or what is the solution?
I really wish I knew. I think you just want a political party to listen to the public. What you don't need are lots of different opinions. And
do you need to listen anymore? Don't you already know? I could probably sit down with your party and explain what you need to do to get back in power.
But they're not listening. They might hear
Why not?
They're not listening.
I mean, they are aware they're not in government right now, and for a very good reason. Well, do they get it?
I'm not sure
they do. They get why people are saying they're going to vote reform?
I'm not sure they do.
That's interesting.
I really think that they are so tin-eared and at the moment still being the ostrich with the head in the sand.
And hoping it all goes. And they're
hoping it all goes
away.
Well,
also they're hoping, let's face it, that Labour do so badly that people go, I'll vote Tory again. But there are alternatives now.
They're also hoping that Reform do something that puts their popularity down, and they can sit there and just say, look, here we are.
There we are.
You can't do that, though.
Yeah, I don't think that's worth relying on. I would like all the parties to be performing well, because then we get a choice between good parties. A lot of the time, people are just going, God, these people are so awful, I'll have to vote for this person.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice that people weren't having to do that, but there we are. What do you make of this £50 billion black hole misery for Rachel Reeves? Apparently a productivity downgrade blow to the Chancellor as the Office of Budget Responsibility, the fiscal watchdog, lived worse than expected cut to our productivity outlook ahead of next month's budget. Basically, tax hikes are unavoidable, and you can't just tax the rich. You can't just do the mansion tax on people earning more than, with a house worth more than $2 million. You are looking at taxes going up in breach of the manifesto commitments, because the only way to get enough tax in is to tax a little bit on everybody. That means income tax, more on national insurance, VAT and the like. That will be, I mean, we know that every party breaches their promises on things, and we know that there are certain necessities, and these promises were always dumb. Let's face it, they were always dumb, and no one thought they were going to stick to them. But this would be such an open, blatant breaking of that promises. Do they recover from that?
I don't think the Chancellor recovers from that, because she's been front and centre saying that we're here for the working person, something that they can't comprehend actually what it is. But
working
it's
person doing a
inevitable.
4-day week from home at a council.
But isn't it inevitable that if you hit businesses really hard with a lot of extra taxes, that productivity is going to go down because they're not going to employ people?
Who would ever been able to predict that?
I was rubbish at GCSE maths, and even
I can work that out. I mean, again, even like the house builders, they've now said, look, we're not going to build all your 1.5 million houses you promised to build. I mean, I said that on day one, they're not going to be able to do it. Because here's the thing, because they upped it from the last targets, and no government has hit their targets in the last 20 years.
It doesn't matter what number number you put out there, you're not going to hit it as a government because it's too complicated. And if people aren't buying houses because they don't have the financial security to do so, then it's irrelevant how many you're going to build anyway. So let's start by not attacking businesses. Let's do this.
But again,
sensibly.
also these eco rules, the new safety planning regulations, the amount of things. And again, we want safe homes, and of course, we should be building homes that are more, warm and of course we should. But the stuff that is being put on, the
bureaucracy
and the red tape is so huge, and it is taking a lot of time, and it just means people don't get homes. I mean, again, you're never going to solve, by the way, your demographic problems of people not having kids unless people can afford to buy a home that they can afford to have a kid in. And have a second kid and have another home. I mean, have another bedroom. I mean, it's really basic stuff, isn't it? Let's also talk about what's going on in the Middle East. We haven't talked about that for about a week, but it looks like the ceasefire is on a technicality holding between Hamas and the Israelis. But we did have. It is very interesting how it's been written and talked about in the media. Again, I would think the wildly anti-Israel media talking about how it's devastating attacks by Israel on Gaza City, some 60 people dead. And of course, 60 people have been killed and 400 of them are babies. I mean, they always are. I mean, that's the sort of, nonsense, according to the Hamas-run health industry. But it's this in retaliation of an Israeli soldier being targeted in the territory that is meant under the ceasefire deal to be held by the Israelis. But also we've got still Hamas are in breach of the terms of the early, literally stage one of this, point one of this plan, because they have not returned all the bodies of the hostages. Look, the live hostages absolutely the priority, and thank God they are home. And I think we've got about half, or maybe just more than half, of the bodies they want back. But of course, people need to know for sure their loved ones are dead and not being held. But also, bury them in dignity and get closure. It's important. They say we didn't know where all the bodies were, but the IDF have produced footage, they've drone footage of them basically taking a white shrouded, basically bag of remains out of a house, burying it, and then going, oh look, and filming it. Oh look, we found a body. Oh look, and basically, they do know where the bodies are, and then they returned yet another body that wasn't the body of who they said it was. It was someone who certainly wasn't Israeli. I mean, and then it's always framed as Israel has attacked Hamas, but Hamas are massively, they're attacking Israeli troops, and they are in breach of the ceasefire terms every single hour of every day.
When the headline popped up on my phone, and it was Netanyahu strikes Gaza. No context around it, so you have to go in, you have to read it, and you have to understand where it's come from.
Why have they done that?
Why. And you can see that basically the bodies have not been returned to Israel, so Hamas are in breach of that. I want to see what the Americans are going to do with this, because we're now getting to the point where Hamas have broken their side of the bargain. Israel are now starting to go, actually, we're fed up and we're going to retaliate.
Hamas are not laying down their weapons. They're mass executions.
Did anybody think they would, though?
Apparently Donald Trump, but there we are.
Which beggars belief. So what are America going to do if they are the
well, and he said very clearly when he announced it at the White House with Netanyahu, the 20-point plan, that if Hamas don't play ball, then then they can do what Israel can do what they want.
So all eyes on the White House at the moment as to how they're going to react.
Absolutely. What's interesting, of course, we'll be looking forward to the next march for the people who've been massacred in what is literally ethnically based genocide in Sudan. Oh, no big marches? No big marches planned for all the people who really care about people being genocided?
It's horrendous. Isn't that interesting? Absolutely horrendous.
Basically, there has been so many massacres of civilians in Sudan, the Sudanese city of El Fasher, that you can, the sand is stained red with the blood, and it can be seen on Google Maps. That's how bad it is. Now, the city fell over the weekend following an 18-month siege. Mass killings. By the militia groups defending the city alongside the army alleged the Rapid Support Forces committed heinous crimes against innocent civilians. Most of the dead were women, children and the elderly. It's the Sudanese paramilitary rebels who basically piles of bodies. Just extraordinary evidence of door-to-door clearance operations, literally, what's your ethnicity, boom, boom, boom. I mean, looking forward to those marches. Don't we care? I thought we cared about innocent people being genocided. We don't care about that.
Yeah,
okay.
They don't really know where Sudan is.
An actual genocide taking place right now in real time. No one cares.
Well, of course they don't. Because
No Jews, no news.
Exactly, there is no Jewish people, there's no democratic state to blame. You've got a bunch of militia and some people being killed. And as sad as this is, and this has been going on for some time in Sudan, it is appalling what happens out there. And of course, a lot of these lanyard-wearing classes don't even know where it is. Nope. Don't understand.
And to be fair, we don't cover it. And I've seen quite a few reports. BBC and Sky have covered it. I always get the impression they're covering it to cover their backs. So no, we do cover it. It's not just Gaza we're obsessed with. But I want to know why the people who are worried about genocide, why don't you care about the genocide that is literally going on, not that far away from Gaza in the big scheme of things, but is actually going on in real time? Huge amounts of evidence of it, because there ain't any evidence of genocide in Gaza, but yet you're marching against that, even when there's a ceasefire, because you just hate Jews. I'm sorry. Let's just go back. We always come back to. That's what we come back to every time. But we digress, because there's a lot to talk about at home. But I want to hear from you, your thoughts, and I know you want to. The board is full of calls on 0344 499 1000 about the latest madness of illegal arrivals in this country, the crimes that are being committed and allegedly committed by them. Give us a call 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
Can I just say, I don't know if you're going to get here, but I want to get here. Them at the Dodgers game. Who in their right mind does not take their son to a baseball game? It's Harry and Meghan sitting there in front of Magic Johnson.
That's true.
They're front row.
I never thought about that.
And why does Harry not take you know who he took to the Super Bowl? Eugenie. Why does he never take his son to these types of events?
Odd.
Isn't that strange?
What a very interesting point.
Yeah.
But it is also true.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon. Not good afternoon, it's good morning. I'm wishing the morning away. I can't wait to get to PMQs. I'm so excited. I'm lying. 11:31 is the time. This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense, with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Claire Pearcell also here. And you are on the phone lines, 0344 499 1000, having yours say. Tracy is on the line in Burton-upon-Trent. Hello, Tracy. What do you want to say?
Hello, Julia. Hello, Claire.
Oh, you're very chirpy.
I just want to say that I'm very much sort of solution focused, and I've actually got to the point. Bear in mind, I'm 65 years old. I've actually got to the point that, you know, if I was attacked on the street, the police aren't there. Okay, so what can I do about it? So, Julia, I've taken up karate at the grand old age of 65.
I love you. I love you.
Okay, and I actually think that for every young girl out there and every young boy, they should actually go and do martial arts. Whether I would be able to, you know, fight off an attacker, I've got no idea. But at least I kind of feel that I'm trying to do something positive.
I get that.
And I have to say, it is incredibly good fun, okay? And I actually think, especially for young girls, okay, I think that they should go along to their local, give a call out to their local martial arts lot and go and learn some self-defence.
I'd go a bit MMA, personally. I think that might be better. Here's my thing. I think that's almost tackling the wrong end of the problem. It's just...
It is, but that is where we are. And if you expect the government to sort things out for you, that's not going to... Do I want that to be the case?
No,
I don't.
Yeah.
I want it to be like when I was a kid, you know, when I actually used to see coppers on the street and stuff. That isn't what's there at the moment, so I'm actually dealing with what I've got.
You've got to deal with the reality. Tracy, I'm so impressed. If you would fancy to send a photo in to us, we can get that on air. I'd love to see you in your karate kit. I'm loving that, Tracy. You're an absolute star. Thank you. Let's go to Robert in the West Midlands. Robert, you up on your self-defence?
Well, I could take care of myself if somebody wanted to mess with me, Julia, yes. That's not a problem.
Can I just say, Claire and I are sitting up a bit taller now. We're rather like... I like the sound of a real man. I like that.
Well,
Robert, what else
we've got none in our government, have we, Julia?
Yeah,
we've got none in our government.
Exactly.
What I'd like to say, Bob, is when are we going to hold the politicians of every government since Tony Blair responsible for the murder, rape and criminals of illegal foreigners in our country, illegal immigrants?
It's happened under their watch.
They've got blood on their hands, Julia. Every politician, every one of them who's worked in government and gone, oh, well, I've left government now, I'm not part of it. You've all got blood on your hands because we never asked for this, Julia. We never said we want illegal immigrants in our country. I'm getting angry because this is what it's making us do. The government are not listening. Right?
And it doesn't matter which one it is. Doesn't matter what colour rosette they wear. No, they say they're going to listen and then they don't do anything.
And they're all responsible for this, Julia, because they say, oh, we're going to move them out the hotels. That's not the problem. The problem is that they're going to move them out the hotels into areas where we're not going to be protected. We're not going to know where they are. Look what happened in Ireland when they kicked off in the streets. That's in the streets. You're going to have that in every city.
I fear, Robert, that's the territory we're getting to, because it seems to me they don't listen when we just say perfectly reasonably, we don't want this, we've told you we don't want this, and they keep doing it. No, we've told you we don't want this, and we vote accordingly. Whether it's and legal immigration as well for people who are not willing to adopt and adapt to and integrate to our culture as well. You know, even on a lesser worry than the issue of crime. And we keep saying it, and they only listen when people are on the streets. Now, I don't want there to be violent protests on the street. I don't want people to turn to criminals, and I don't want people to be able to take advantage of it. But I fear that is where we are going, because they will not take it seriously.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Julia. And until we as a people stop, I was going to say fighting back, but pushing back on this narrative that illegal immigration is brilliant for our country. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Sorry for shouting.
I know. You can shout as much as you want, mate. I couldn't agree with you more. Robert, thank you very much indeed. 11:35. They've got blood on their hands, Claire.
It's interesting, isn't it? What responsibility can they take? And I get Robert's point, and I think he phrased it very, very well, that yes, politicians really do have to accept responsibility, but what does that actually look like and mean?
Yeah, and Home Office officials as well. Yeah, so we're not going to be taking them to court, are we? Who are we kidding? And I do think that politicians should be held to account on key manifesto pledges. Right? Okay, which are the ones where if you fail on this, we actually get to I don't know, sue you or something. I don't know. There needs, unless it's a good reason. Oh, suddenly there was a war or something, or But I do think we need to have more accountability.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think you're right.
Well, we'll put some of those questions to our next guest, actually. It's Layla Cunningham. She's a Reform UK councillor. We'll talk to her up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, welcome back to the show. 11:39 is the time. Don't forget P&Qs from 12. We'll be taking the first exchanges live. What will Camille Bain not choose to ask the Prime Minister about? I can't imagine. Probably the same things I'm going to ask my next guest about. Layla Cunningham. She's a Reform UK councillor and co-leads Reform UK's Law and Order campaign. Layla, been a bit busy this week, have you, love?
Yeah, we have. Well, the country's been under attack.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? Just the Hadish Kabatu, the migrant sex offender from Ethiopia, deported after that mistaken prison release, a 2-day manhunt. Now we've got a dog walker, Wayne Broadhurst, knifed to death in the most extraordinary, I'm sure you have seen the video, frenzied attack in Uxbridge by an Afghan national. He's the suspect who's been arrested now. It's a triple stabbing. A man and a 14-year-old boy also stabbed very seriously in that same attack. And then we find out this is a man who, the suspect, the alleged suspect, arrived in this country in 2020 in the back of a lorry. Oh, the good old days. The simpler, happier times of backs of a lorry arrivals, not dinghies. And then 2 years later was granted asylum. And what do you make of both of those stories?
Well, what's interesting is Kabatu was deported. He was removed because the state finally deployed some political will and bowed down to public pressure. And that's proof that the machinery to deport immediately exists. And the question is why this machinery isn't used proactively. We have the Borders Act that says that once they get a 12-month or more sentence, they must be deported. Why are we waiting until a crime happens, until someone's raped or killed? I want the law to be changed, and I want it to prevent, not react, because preventing crime saves lives. And there was no returns agreement with Ethiopia. They just had to suck it up and take it. And it shows that we can deport immediately if we had the political will. So I want a trigger for immediate deportation, not to be on a serious, by the way, criminal offence. I want it to be the trigger for immediate deportation is on arrival, illegal arrival. So anyone who enters without permission will automatically be deported.
But also, I mean, other countries, as one of our callers pointed out earlier, like Germany, they're able to deport to Afghanistan, even though we haven't got to deal with them. Well, why haven't we got to deal with them? Other countries do. But even I would even argue, just down to a very simple thing, you just say, oh, you don't want, say Ethiopia doesn't want it back, that's fine. There are no flights coming in from Ethiopia from now on then. End of. That's it. There's no. That's it. No one gets to arrive from your country in our country then. Because I'm sorry, it's like how Donald Trump has done some of this tariff stuff. They'll pay attention at that point and they'll take those people back.
Of course they will. We don't need a crime to prove a point. We need prevention, and prevention means deporting foreign offenders and that's illegal migrants before they kill or rape. And you know what, Julia? I am sick and tired of being called racist or fascist, because I say that any illegal migrant who enters this country is a criminal.
Because they are.
They are. Because one person killed or raped by someone who shouldn't have been here, it's not just a failure. We don't need statements. It's a destroyed family.
Exactly.
And they're more worried about being polite or politically correct. And if that's the case, then you've got no business being in government. And really, Julia, I am really sick and tired of being called racist or fascist, because if you enter this country, you are breaking the law and I owe you nothing.
Yeah, I don't care whether these people are white, brown or black. I don't care at all. I don't want people in the country who are illegal. Here's the thing. A caller made the point a little bit earlier about accountability. This is Robert. He's saying, how do we hold our politicians to account? How do we... they do this, it carries on. We say we don't want it. We did not give you permission to have these people here. Didn't give you, we told you what we wanted to happen. You don't do anything about it. How do we hold them to account? How will, let's say, Reform do, according to the polls, get in the next election? How do we hold you guys to account?
Well, we have a democratic system, which is flawed, I admit, when people vote for something and they get the total opposite. We have a government that gambles with the lives of the British people to prove how compassionate they are, to bow down to foreign treaties. We want a government that's here to protect our people, not apologise to foreign countries. And if we don't do that, then I'll tell the voters, never vote for us again. And that's how it should be.
That's
because every time an innocent person suffers, ministers behind statements. We're sorry, oops, like yesterday Robert Jenrick was on TV and he said, I'm not going to deny that we got it catastrophically wrong, as if that absolves the Conservative Party of everything they did. Oops, sorry, someone got killed, someone got raped, oops, sorry, but just trust us again.
And again, I've got a Conservative. Claire Pearsall's making faces in the studio here, but I've got to be honest with you, I'm with Layla on this one. There is a sort of, as long as we say sorry, it's okay. I don't know if that's going to fly anymore. Can I just bring you some breaking news? Reports claiming that Hadoush Kibati, the migrant sex offender, the Epping offender who was deported to Ethiopia, he was given a £500 payment. It was up to £2,000. Illegal people in this country and foreign criminals are entitled, amazingly, to up to £2,000 payments. But he was given a £500 payment after threatening to disrupt his removal. Now, I imagine, of course, you're in a situation where the plane can't take off and you're in that situation. What can you do? I mean, I'm of the view that at that point you just... you give someone a sedative and you tase them or whatever you do and you put them on the plane that way. But I imagine the airlines won't agree to take someone on that basis. We have paid £500 of our hard-earned money paid in taxes to a sex offender who came to this country illegally, who had no right to be here, committed a sex offence, and now we're paying him to get on a plane. I'm sorry. Why don't we just slap ourselves in the face?
Yeah, exactly that. Just come here, commit the most heinous crime, and you know what? We're going to pay you to go back home. I mean...
It's a joke. We are a joke country. We really are.
We are a joke. We're a joke country.
What do you make about the government's crackdown on illegal working, 63% increase in the number of arrests made? They carried out 11,000 raids in the last year. They're kind of upgrading that. There's talk, about... more prosecutions of the people, the employers, because basically they're the problem. If they didn't employ people, then, and they knew they'd be caught and they knew they'd basically go to prison, they wouldn't risk doing it. But is that enough?
No, just deport every illegal migrant who comes in here, then we won't have this problem. We saw that it can be done. It just doesn't have the political will. We do not have a returns agreement with Ethiopia. We do not need a returns agreement. We are giving, and people moan about us sending people back to the Taliban, but they don't mind the Taliban coming over here. Who knows, that guy might have been part of the Taliban. They're more than happy for the Taliban to cross the boat and come here. They're more than happy for a convicted bomb maker from the Muslim Brotherhood to come here and have his asylum considered. And in terms of the workers, Julia, we're running a two-tier system, basically. British workers face incredible amount of rules, checks, taxes, and illegal migrants, they just come, no questions asked. We are a joke country right now. And, they're going to try and use this to bring in the digital ID. Nonsense.
Oh, yes.
We don't
I know. But we've seen the polling. The public don't accept that. Can I also ask you just about a press conference this morning? They come thick and fast from your party. The Reform Head of Policies here, Yusuf, said today that young people on disabilities are being tossed onto the scrap heap. They're going to end personal independence payments for claimants with non-serious anxiety disorders. We've seen a huge increase in those. And the caseload for new claims for under 25s in this country, says on PIP, have tripled in 5 years. This is a betrayal of our young people, and they're going to have welfare cuts that would save £9 billion a year by 2029. What do you say about that?
I say we have to do this. And it shows you that taxes are going to go up because we're paying for Starmer's weak leadership. He couldn't get his backbenchers to agree to a cut, and he's not going to do it anytime soon. And basically, we're paying for political weakness, and we just can't afford it anymore. People are tired. We're tired of paying for illegal migrants to be housed in 5-star hotels, 4-star hotels. We're tired of paying for people with slight anxiety disorders to do nothing. As you say, it's not a serious country. We're not a serious country right now. And I think actually when you do have anxiety, and I know people have said this before, I think it is helpful to be doing something. When my sister passed away of cancer 2 years ago.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was, and she was like, I wish I died from cancer. I watched her, I was her carer. It chips away at every person and every soul of your being, but that's almost what spurred me to get so busy. People say, how can you do all this? And I do it so I don't
keep busy and don't. Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry if you lost that, Layla. We'll have to leave it there. Reform UK Councillor Layla Cunningham there. Claire Pearson, we can come back in on. She was basically saying, going back to just saying sorry isn't enough for Labour or the Tories.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that, but it just comes back down to what else can you do? And you're right. She said, if that was the case with Reform, then you could not vote for them next time, vote them out. And that's what's happened to the Conservative Party. I still don't get what people want when they say they want people to be held accountable. What is it that they're actually after? Because the only way in a democratic state that you can hold people to account is to boot them out.
Yeah, well, that was one reason why I voted for Brexit, because we didn't have any accountability, because we couldn't boot out a European Commissioner. 11:49 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to be talking about what is going on in Jamaica and indeed in Cuba with that horrific Hurricane Melissa. Just how bad is the damage, and how soon will we know what's really been going on? This is Talk, the home of common sense.
The previous...
She's almost there. We're almost there. But it's so funny that she wants us to think about her royal history and her royal wedding when, remember, it was Sally Bedell Smith and Lady Elizabeth Anson. We had reports, thanks to Sally Bedell Smith, of how they terrorized the Queen around their wedding and how they isolated her and made her feel so excluded from the planning of their wedding. And then there were the famous stories around the time of their wedding. She hated the smell of St. George's Chapel.
Can I just say...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 11:52 is the time. Let's talk about Hurricane Melissa, which has devastated the Caribbean. We saw arrival of that hurricane at basically gale force 5 arriving on the Jamaica island of Jamaica yesterday, and now arriving in Cuba. But we are looking at absolute devastation. Some 500,000 people left without electricity, people having to be moved to higher land, and concerns that some whole towns are underwater. Let's talk about it all now with Jacqueline Charles, who's a Caribbean correspondent at the Miami Herald. Very good morning to you, Jacqueline.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Well, I say good morning for some people, maybe, but certainly not for those people in Jamaica or Cuba. Tell us just exactly how devastating, as far as we know, because of course it's only before 7 in the morning in Jamaica right now, and only starting to get images out of just how devastating this hurricane has been. But tell us what we know so far.
So what we know is that across Jamaica, there are blocked roads, there are down power lines. Hospitals have been severely damaged, especially in southwestern Jamaica, where Melissa made landfall sometime around 11 o'clock. Packing 185 miles per hour winds. St. Elizabeth Parish, which is the food producing region which was hit last year with Hurricane Beryl, that area is underwater according to the local minister. Of course, we're still waiting to see. We're not hearing much in terms of death reports, so we're hoping that is good news. Yeah. The Minister of Transport says they're hoping to get at least Norman Manley Airport back up and running on Thursday, at least for recovery efforts. And I need to say that the government has launched an official portal to coordinate relief. This is always an issue whenever a storm comes through the Caribbean. And so you see the government very early on trying to take control of that process.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of time to plan. I mean, there were sort of good things and bad things about the hurricane. One is that, it was good that there was time because it was slow moving. But of course, slow moving means there's more devastation when it hits land because it's on land for so long. But there was time for people to prepare. We know we've seen reports in the media in Britain about, British tourists, over I think some 7,000 of the 25,000 tourists on the island at the current time, arriving at hotels where, everything's boarded up. They're, doing what they can to keep people and property safe. But how much can be done to keep property and, more importantly, people safe in those sort of devastating winds?
I have covered so many hurricanes, whether it's Jamaica, it's Haiti, or it's the Bahamas. And one of the issues in the Caribbean, but we're seeing improvements on this, is that people don't want to leave their homes. They don't want to evacuate. They don't want to go to shelters. And then everything comes to the last minute. So as we are watching this tropical storm, remember, it was a tropical storm for a week. It was slow moving. And then the reports said, this is going to be catastrophic, people. This is going to be the storm of the century, at least for Jamaica. And so there you started to see people trying to prepare. But I spoke to a farmer in St. Elizabeth. I mean, he has greenhouse. Last year it was completely flattened along with more than 200 others. So this go around, I mean, he took off the plastic, he left the metal up, and he said, all I could do was pray. But at the end of the day, I'm going to lose everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's utterly devastating. And we often, even when there's warning of high winds in Britain, we kind of almost joke about, someone's wheelie bin has fallen over, a fence has fallen over, because we just don't experience, as a rule, anything like those sort of extreme, weather events. But this is the thing, as you say, this has come after another hurricane, Hurricane Beryl, only last year, and we've seen so many Caribbean islands devastated. I mean, Haiti's just had one thing after another in terms of natural disasters. Yeah. How soon can a country recover from this? I mean, is Jamaica, is it sort of functioning enough government? Has it got the resources? How much help is going to need from international aid? Well, how do they go about it?
So I have to tell you, this storm, there's never a good time for a storm, and this storm could not have come at a worse time. I mean, Jamaica is a country that a few years ago we were comparing it as the Greece of the Caribbean because of bankruptcy. Remember, these Caribbean countries are still recovering from COVID-19. Yeah. Some of them are highly in debt, but Jamaica was one of the countries that was making strides. It's going to need international assistance. And all of this is happening at a time when the U.S. government has shut down the United States Agency for International Development. Mm-hmm. We at the Miami Herald, we've been asking, the Trump administration, what kind of assistance can Caribbean countries expect when, we saw Hurricane Dorian 6 years ago in the Bahamas. USAID responded, with over $30 million in assistance. They even chartered seaplanes. We don't know yet. I think first we have to figure out what the assessment in terms of the damage is going to be, what kind of assistance. But one of the things we've seen is CARICOM has issued a statement that is saying that, insurance rates, they need to come down. The international community needs to do more. You cannot be charging these extraordinary amounts for loans when these countries, yes, on paper may be middle income, but in reality, they're struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it is always the people at the bottom of the ladder who get hit hardest. They've got the weakest homes, they've got the business, they haven't got the savings, they haven't got insurance. There's very little they can do when these storms hit.
Indeed. And we're waiting to see with Cuba. I mean, Cuba is a country that really can't afford any disaster. Yeah. I mean, the food situation, the humanitarian situation, and yet, they have evacuated 500,000 people. That storm landed as a Category 3 on the eastern part of the island. And so we are watching that closely, given our close ties here in this community. But again, that is a country that truly, if they get pounded, it's really going to be in a bad state.
Absolutely. Really appreciate you joining us. Jacqueline Charles, she's a Caribbean correspondent at the Miami Herald. Claire Pearce, I mean, look, we've got a bit of rain outside our window right now. We don't have to live with these extremes, but the poorer a country is, more of a basket case the government is, the worse it is for the people.
Absolutely, and that's all you want is for those people to be safe and looked after. We don't know what the death toll is. Let's just hope these people have been able to get to safety. I mean, three deaths before it had even hit, but you do worry about it. Hopefully with all the preparation, we'll keep our fingers crossed for the good folk of Jamaica. And of course, there'll be a lot of people in Britain who've got close family ties, family and friends over in Jamaica as well. Of course, a lot of tourists as well. Up next, we're going to get to PMQs. Claire's going to stay with me. Peter Carball's going to join us. What will Kemi Bate not be asking the Prime Minister about? I bet he's glad that Kabachi guy has headed off back to Ethiopia. But do we have to pay him 500 quid for the privilege? That's up next. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon to you. Welcome back to the show. It's 2 minutes past 12 o'clock. This is Talk, the home of common sense, with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer, whether you're listening on DAB+ radio or on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device. Great, as always, to have your company. Don't forget, you can go to my YouTube page if you missed anything. It's called the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. You've got no excuses. So hit subscribe. You never have to miss a thing. And if you do that, I'll just keep going on about it to you. In just a couple of moments, we are going to go live to PMQs for the first clashes between Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch. And then we'll be getting the reactions of Claire Pearsall and Peter Cobbold. Also going to be talking, obviously, as they will no doubt, about where we are with all these migrant cases and migrant crime. We're also going to be talking about house builders warning the government's budget, have warned the government's budget watchdog that ministers will not hit their target to build the 1.5 million new homes by the end of the decade that they've promised. I mean, I could have told you that, guys. I mean, we already knew that, did we not? But we certainly can expect that there are going to be some very tough questions of the Prime Minister. Claire Pearsall, no doubt at all, she's got to go on the migrant crime issue, mustn't she?
I think she's on pretty strange ground, though, with that. I think she's more likely to go after the U-turn on accommodation into barracks rather than what's happened with, the particular individual of Afghan origin, because he came in 2020, so quite firmly under a Conservative administration.
And that is always the problem, isn't it? And again, with lots of these stories, the Prime Minister can go, oh, but this happened under a Tory watch. Again, Peter Cobbold, for how long can he do that? Because you could just feel not just the backbenchers, but the people watching just go, oh, mate, it's on your watch now.
Well, I don't know about you, Julia, but I've noticed this language. It keeps coming out from various people. The Prime Minister is furious about something. Yes. Shabana Mahmood is really angry, frustrated. You're the government. It's been 16 months, guys. Stop blaming the last guys. Take some responsibility. Yes, you inherited a mess in some ways, but we have this massive kind of over-exaggeration. David Lammy the other day talking about how this was, law and order nearly collapsed under the Tories. I don't think it did, actually.
All right, let it go. I think it's pretty much collapsing now and has been for quite some time. I mean, we've got a lot of very angry callers about this. Don't forget to get in touch, 0344 499 1000. We're going to go to Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch's exchanges in PMQs. Any moment we're expecting her to ask her first question. We'll get that. In fact, let's go live to the Commons right now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year, in its manifesto, Labour promised not to increase income tax, not to increase national insurance, and not to increase VAT. Does the Prime Minister still stand by his promises?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that the Leader of the Opposition is now finally talking about the economy. I can update the House, Mr. Speaker. Retail sales are higher than expected. Inflation is lower than expected. Growth has been upgraded this year. And, Mr. Speaker, the UK stock market is at an all-time high. The budget is on the 26th of November, and we will lay out our plans. But I can tell the House now that we will build a stronger economy, we will cut NHS waiting lists, and deliver a better future for our country.
Well, Mr. Speaker. Yes. What a fascinating answer. It is not the same answer that I received when I asked exactly the same question, word for word, on the 9th of July. Then the Prime Minister replied with just one word, yes, and then he sat down with a smug grin on his face. What's changed in the past 4 months?
Mr. Speaker, as she well knows, no Prime Minister or Chancellor will ever set out their plans in advance. But, Mr. Speaker, I can say this, Mr. Speaker, because the figures on the productivity review that's being undertaken, this is a judgment on their record in office. Those figures are now coming through, and they confirm that the Tories did even more damage to the economy than we previously thought. Now, we will turn that around. We've already delivered the fastest growth in the G7 in the first half of this year. 5 interest rate cuts in a row. Trade deals with the US, EU and India. They broke the economy. We're fixing it.
Mr. Speaker, he says no Prime Minister or Chancellor will say these things before the budget. Has he told his Chancellor? Because she's been out there flying kites, causing constant speculation around the budget that is damaging the economy. All week, they've been briefing about tax rises. What we've heard is that he does not have a plan. So we have some ideas for him. Yes. Yesterday, they can... Mr. Speaker, it's quite clear that they need some ideas. Yes. On this side of the House, we believe in scrapping taxes on family homes. Yesterday, we voted to abolish stamp duty. They voted against it. Even the Deputy Prime Minister, or the former Deputy Prime Minister, who resigned in disgrace for not paying stamp duty, voted to keep it. So, Mr. Speaker, I will remind them, on this side of the House, we know that abolishing stamp duty is how we get young people on the housing ladder and get the economy growing. So why won't he scrap this terrible tax?
Why didn't they do it then in 14 years in office? Mr. Speaker, as I said, the productivity review figures are now coming in, and they show the true extent of the damage that they did. And she asked us to take advice from them. We all know, these figures are coming out, we all know that austerity damaged the economy on their watch. The botched Brexit deal damaged the economy on their watch. Liz Truss's mini-budget damaged the economy on their watch. So we'll take no lectures or advice from them on the economy. They won't be trusted on the economy for generations to come. And Mr. Speaker, that's why at our budget, I can be clear, there will be no return to austerity. That's what broke the country. No return to the instability of their mad borrowing spree. And we'll end the unfairness and low growth that squeeze living standards for working people. That's the path to national renewal.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives reduced the deficit every year until the pandemic. We more than doubled the personal allowance. We left 4 million more jobs than we found from Labour. We brought inflation down to 2%. It's nearly double.
Mr. Tufnell, you're in my sights. The pantomime season has arrived, so don't start it too early.
Mr. Speaker, on our record, we brought inflation down to 2%. It has doubled under him. We left him the fastest growing economy in the G7. It is no longer. The truth is, they have no ideas. We're giving them some. There is another way to get growth. It's cutting welfare spending and getting people into work. Last month, I offered to work cross-party with him to bring down welfare spending, because he knows, and we know, that he'd rather dip into people's pockets than upset those people behind him. Instead of tax rises, will he work with us to find a way to cut welfare spending and get Britain working again?
Mr. Speaker, she talks about their record. Let's go through it. They crashed the economy. Inflation went up to 11%. Mortgages went through the roof. Welfare spending went up £33 billion, and they want to give us advice. And they reduced the UK to a laughing stock. Because of our budget, Mr. Speaker, waiting lists have come down, wages are up, mortgage rates are down, and other countries want to do deals with us. Just on Monday of this week, the Turkish government signed an £8 billion deal for typhoons. Earlier this year, the Norway government a £10 billion for frigates. That is because of the budget that we passed, fixing the mess that they left.
Mr. Speaker, it's not because of the budget that he passed. I started that deal back in January 2024. But and I welcome it. There are some things, Mr. Speaker, it's got nothing to do with their budget. We're lucky it's still happening. So I welcome the £8 billion deal that he's done with Turkey, but I will remind him that just last month, his Chancellor borrowed £20 billion. He'll have to sell a hell of a lot more jets to make up for that. And he won't rule out any tax rises. He can't cut spending. He is increasing unemployment. This man knows nothing about economic growth except how to destroy it. In his weakness, Mr. Speaker, he has caved into the unions with their regulations that will cripple businesses, costing them £5 billion every year. Yes, please do speak up, because I want every single business out there to hear Labour MPs heckling when we talk about the damage that they are doing. ask the Prime Minister, how on earth can he consider adding more burdens for these firms to deal with?
Mr. Speaker, she's overlooked the fact that we had the highest growth in the G7 the first 6 months of this year, and that growth's just been upgraded. 3 interest rate cuts. But, Mr. Speaker, we're not going to take lessons from them. She's now introduced what I understand to be, I think she calls it a golden economic rule, this golden rule that she's now putting forward, very golden. £47 billion, Mr. Speaker, of unspecified spending cuts with no detail whatsoever. Mr. Speaker, let me put that in context. That would be 85,000 fewer nurses, 234,000 fewer teachers, or cutting every police officer in the country twice over. No wonder the Institute for Government said she's on shaky foundations. That's exactly what caused the problem in the first place.
Mr. Speaker, the fact that he has to stand there and make stuff up just shows what kind of Prime Minister he is. We had an itemised list. We had an itemised list of 47 billion. 23 billion was on welfare spending, which I asked him to work with us to cut. He refuses to do so. All he knows how to do is tax, tax, tax. If you work, they tax you more. If you save, they tax you more. If you buy a home, they tax you more. None of these taxes were in the manifesto, which he had 4 years to prepare. Mr. Speaker, he is raising taxes because he is too weak to control spending. He's blaming us, he's blaming the OBR. Last week they were blaming Brexit. Isn't the truth that with this Prime Minister, it's always someone else's fault?
Yeah. They were kicked out of office because they broke the economy. They won't be trusted for years to come. She can't tell us what her position is on the last budget, and she's got a phantom £47 billion with no foundation as we go forward. That's exactly the mess that they caused. They've not changed one bit. Meanwhile, we're fixing their mess. 5 million extra NHS appointments, 5 interest rate cuts, growth and wages up. That's a change the Labour government makes.
Right, well, that was quite a heated exchange and wasn't actually about, I think a lot of us assume it's got to be about the migrant cases, but maybe, as our guests were pointing out in the studio, a bit of a difficult wicket for Kemi Badenoch, given the abject failures of the last Conservative government on that front. Instead, Kemi Badenoch went all the way through on the economy. Bearing in mind, we're about 4 weeks away from the next budget on November the 26th. Fascinating first question, though, where she basically asked the Prime Minister, would he stick by the manifesto commitment not to raise the rates of income tax, national insurance or VAT. The Prime Minister just waffled on various economic statistics. Answer came there none. Kemi Badenoch responded with, well. She said, that's interesting. I asked the same question back on the 9th of July, exactly word for word, and the Prime Minister replied, yes, as in he would stick by the commitments. One-word answer back in July. Definitely was not an answer this time round. I'm pretty sure, guys, our taxes are going up, and not just those rich people over there with the mansions. Peter Cardwell, that was a direct hit there. That was a serious Exocet missile direct hit by the leader of the opposition.
She did very well, and I think that this is now becoming a pattern for Kemi Badenoch. The last 3 weeks she's done very well, and she did well, I think, at the Conservative Party conference speech. So I think she's scoring hits, as you correctly say. Julia, I also think that for us all, we should be worried. The taxes are definitely going up in 4 weeks. Yep. We kind of knew it was going to happen anyway, but that is as much. He may as well have just said taxes are going up. He may as well have just confirmed it in what he said. Also, he keeps banging on about the fact that the growth in the G7 was the best in the first 6 months of this year. Growth in the G7 is like saying I'm the tallest of Snow White's housemates. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Exactly. It's not a thing.
But also, again, it's just a sort of it's all we're doing so well, and then claiming things like interest rates come down. Yes. You're not in charge of the interest rates, mate. The whole point was the Bank of England's in charge of that.
And when they go up, they always say, well, nothing to do with us, Gav.
Yeah,
Bank of England's independent.
Claire, so what did you make of those exchanges?
Well, I agree with Peter. I think that Kemi Badenoch has improved no end, and she is much better if she takes one issue and keeps on with it. Laser focus on that issue, because you could see how uncomfortable Keir Starmer was getting.
He just hates being questioned anyway.
He does. And it's really
Kamala Harris, they really don't like anyone asking them questions.
And they get tetchy.
Yeah.
And he was a bit shaky. I don't know if anybody noticed, if you could see it on screen, his hands at the dispatch box were really quite shaky. So I think he's wrong-footed. He doesn't like it. He becomes tetchy. And I think that she's got him on the ropes, and I'm really enjoying it.
Let's face it, this is Rachel Reeves' second budget coming up in a month's time, and it's going to be her last. I think we all know that.
I think you're right,
She's
Julia.
going to be blamed for everything. But here's the thing, you know, he appointed her. He is. You know what's written on that door? You know what's written on the letterbox, the door? The First Lord of the Treasury. That is literally the Prime Minister's
But it's always
title.
someone else's fault. It's always someone else's fault. It was Corbyn's fault. It was the civil services fault. It was Sue Gray's fault. It was Chris Wormold's fault. It's it's Peter Mandelson's fault. It's everybody's fault apart from his. He's changed his advisors like some of us change our socks. You know, it just goes on and on.
He would be a nightmare to be married to, wouldn't he? I mean, I'm sorry. I just think wouldn't he be a nightmare to be married to? Apart from having to take the dry cleaning, all those free suits he got from his mate. Yes. You've got to be there. You basically buy the dry cleaners at that point, wouldn't you? But no, this is the thing. I mean, look, this is going to be so crucial, and it is fascinating that so much of the conversation, front pages of the papers, and the national debate has been about immigration, given that the economy is in such a bad way, and all of the polling shows that people know the economy is in a bad way. They know it's going to continue to be bad, and people thinking that itself is self-perpetuating, but there's no sign of anything that's being done that's going to make it better. We're going to build more houses. Well, it turns out we're not going to build that many new houses.
And they never were.
And they never were, exactly. And we're going to do this, we're going to get this through. There's always something else that goes wrong. I mean, the reality is, Labour have, unlike when Tony Blair came in '97, they've been handed a difficult. They've got a difficult in tray, and I've written so many articles saying this, probably far too repeatedly. You know, the problems haven't changed because of the rosette of the person who walks into the office. What do you think is the most likely in terms of national insurance, VAT, income tax going up? Because I was thinking VAT people perhaps might not notice as much. National insurance perhaps don't as much as a headline that your tax rate has gone up.
It's interesting, asking a couple of economists about this. I said, what is the fairest way? If you're going to raise tax, I don't want taxes to go up, but if they do go up, what's the fairest way to do it? Is it the mansion tax? Is it this, that and the other? And look, income tax is the fairest way. It's not nice.
And basic
I don't want it to happen.
rate.
And basic rate
The one
as
that
well.
everyone pays.
Yes, exactly, or most people anyway. So I do think that is probably what will happen. But you're right about Rachel Reeves. Rachel Reeves on the 26th of November 2025 is going to end up contradicting Rachel Reeves 30th of October 2024. They're going to be two very different people, and her credibility, if she's got any left, is going to be shot to pieces as a result.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, Claire, isn't it? This is they're on a sticky wicket, and they know they are. There's no doubt at all. The next reshuffle, she'll be out. Yeah, and that's how he's going to do it. But there's no one you think was going to do a better job.
Are we going to get Darren Jones though? Please no.
Yeah, I mean
but
that's
this is
the thing.
You look along the front bench, and you think, do I want her to be replaced by any of those? No, I don't, is the short answer.
Well, I think about that with Keir Starmer. They say, well, you know, talk
else?
about after the Caerphilly by-election and the terrible, I mean, Labour just absolutely down into, you know, ridiculously embarrassing numbers. And then we've got May elections coming, not just in Wales and in Scotland, but also across large parts of the country, in council elections, and how badly people predict Labour are going to do then. Oh, well, in Keir Starmer be ousted. Who do you think is going to be any better?
It's also not as easy to oust a Labour leader. No. The Tories have it down to a fine art. They can get rid of anybody we like, we don't like. Sorry.
Yeah, very easily.
But Labour can't. There's a whole process. So I don't think it's going to be that simple. But his reshuffle will be interesting, and Rachel Reeves will be the first casualty.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt at all about that. Then she could run for deputy leader, like the last one got sacked. What do you make of the decision, Claire, of Kemi Bennett not to go on the stories that are dominating the front page now, the migrants?
I think it's sensible. I really do, because there is nobody's got clean hands when it comes to migration and immigration, but also what else can you say? You've got a problem. You've now got somebody who is arrested, suspected of carrying out a murder.
The Prime Minister can say, I can't talk about it.
Absolutely. So you've got nothing else really to say. You've only got one point to attack him on, and he's going to say, we can't comment.
And you've got the Hadoush Kabatu, he's now left the country.
He's now left the country, so that's over. And Keir Starmer would just turn around and say, but we managed to deport him, whereas you lot probably wouldn't.
That might make it work at PMQs, but let's face it, that's not going to work for the average viewer listener.
No, it's not. There's also, I think, I agree with Claire's point, and I think the point of, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. There's so much coverage of that. There's so much that people are angry about, and Kemi Bennett doesn't really need to add to that. Whereas with the economic stuff, I think think she's probably on stronger ground, certainly when you look at the Conservatives' record in immigration.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what's very interesting. Quite a few people are making the point that the Prime Minister, we don't take all of the comments because often it can go on quite a long time, can't it? But the Prime Minister opened with remarks about the scenes of destruction in Jamaica. Of course, it's about 7:20 in the morning in Jamaica, so people are just really waking up to the devastating scenes, saying the scenes are truly shocking, and the UK is ready to provide humanitarian support in the wake of Hurricane Melissa. And I think many of us, I think we would endorse that.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And we are talking about, let's face it, a former colony, member of the Commonwealth.
Many British nationals there.
Many British nationals, but many British nationals who have got close links to Jamaica as well. But I've seen some online blowback to that, saying, "Great, we've just had someone stabbed in the street. We've just had a man, on a manhunt for 2 days after a man was released falsely wrongly from prison, who had to be deported, paid him 500 quid after he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl, and he's talking about another country."
Yeah.
And I can understand why people feel angry.
I'll never hear Keir was in Turkey yesterday. Okay, great, £8 billion
Sorry, was it Turkey or was he in Turkey?
Well, I don't know. I mean, where are you going on your holidays? Paris? Roma?
But apparently,
Chile?
I have had
Colombia?
Can I just say, I've had the most ridiculously absurd response from an awful lot of people who are incandescent with rage at me for saying, stop calling it Turkey. You don't say you've got to deal with Deutschland or La France. But it is the official English, anglicised version of Turkey's name, officially in the United Nations, is this Turkey with the umlaut. But my thing is, I don't think you get to choose what another country in another language calls you. I think we get to choose that. I mean...
Yes, I think that's fairly accurate. I think I agree with that. Also, I mean, people just do this ludicrous thing. The BBC do it all the time. But they don't just say Ursula von der Leyen. They're like, Ursula von der Leyen. And they really go for it.
Can I just say
for no reason.
It irritates me, and I've shouted at you about this before. It's Ursula von der Leyen.
Von der Leyen.
It's von and it's von der Leyen.
Okay.
It is. It's von, not von. I lived in Germany. I worked in the German Parliament for 3 months.
Why does she look so much like Chesney Hawkes? That's what I want to know.
That is so true.
You can't unsee it.
Never.
You can't unsee it.
You cannot. You cannot. You will if you're a regular. This man is obsessed with Chesney Hawkes.
It's a legend.
I just feel like,
great guy.
Didn't he perform at your birthday?
No, not quite.
No, you did.
I went to his concert.
I would have gone just to see your face, your joyful face. I feel we've digressed. I feel
Somewhat.
Why are we not deporting Chesney Hawkes? No, that wasn't the story.
Don't deport Chesney Hawkes. He's very welcome. He's the one and only.
What have I done?
Get a hold of yourself, Julia.
Right, Nigel Farage later today. Now he's not. I think we're right in thinking he is in the Spectator's gallery again because he doesn't get picked for questions in the Commons. He complains despite having the support. Bearing in mind Labour and the Tories down to 17 points each, and the Reformers way above. He's got a 10-minute rule, 10-minute bill. Oh God, 10-minute rule bill motion, whatever it is, to withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights. Claire, explain what this is and what chance of success.
Okay, a 10-minute rule bill is a piece of parliamentary legislation that you can put a subject out there in 10 minutes. Normally it's to raise awareness of a certain issue. It gauges parliamentary support. And it's a bit sort of testing, is there going to be much interest in it? So Nigel Farage will have 10 minutes to lay out his case.
And when will he get to do that? Because we've got a couple of urgent questions as well.
So it will be after those. Should it be after PMQs?
Does he not introduce it after PMQs?
He introduces it after PMQs. It'll get introduced, but he has 10 minutes. Somebody else on the front bench of the government will have 10 minutes to oppose it, and then it is put to a vote as to whether it gets a first reading.
That's going to be interesting, the vote.
It's a parliamentary post-it note. This is never going to be made into legislation. It's a political
But he wants to get everyone on record, does he not, Peter Caldwell? All the Labour MPs voting against it. Presumably Tory MPs, they'll either abstain or vote for it?
I should imagine that they are under enormous pressure to abstain from this.
Not to support
Don't get drawn in.
But again, you're giving succour to... What do you think of this?
I think that's a very good move, and then he'll say, well, they voted against this, we would do it, and Reform UK say they would do it on day one as well. In fact, they have legislative people working behind the scenes to actually get the legislation ready for day one.
OK, right, well, it's been really good getting your analysis. Just finally, marks out of 10 for Kemi Badenoch and the Prime Minister.
8 for Kemi, 2 for Keir.
Oh, that bad. Claire?
I think a 7 and a 3. 7 for Kemi.
More diplomatic there.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you are. You give your judgment. Love to hear your thoughts. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. We'll get your calls up next. Also going to be talking to Lord Dannett, the former head of the British Army, about the prospect of just trying to put all our migrants into army camps and in barracks. I mean, really, have we got enough of them, given how many we have got? We're also going to be talking about Labour missing their home-building target. I know no one is surprised about that. And I still haven't got to talking about the morning after pill free at pharmacies from today. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm sure we'll get to that all coming up. Big thanks to Peter Cardwell. I know you're on again later.
Drive, yeah, 4 till 7.
As you know, things are a bit up in the air at the moment, but it's fabulous hearing you at Drive. So that Peter Cardwell, stay tuned for that a little bit later. More from me and Claire coming up next. This is Talk.
Know if you're going to get.
But it is also true that the previous Conservative government, and indeed governments from Boris Johnson down, always refused to say China was an enemy under the mistaken belief that in law an enemy is a country we are at war with. But that's not true. An enemy is a country that means to do us harm, that subverts us, that spies on us. That has been our definition of an enemy since 1911.
She's almost there. We're almost there. But it's so funny that she wants us to think about her royal history and her royal wedding when, remember, it was Sally Bedell Smith and Lady Elizabeth Anson. We had reports, thanks to Sally Bedell Smith, of how they terrorized the Queen around their wedding and how they isolated her and made her feel so excluded from the planning of their wedding. And then there were the famous stories around the time of their wedding. She hated the smell of St. George's Chapel.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good afternoon. Welcome back to the show. 12:30 is the time. Let's quickly squeeze in some calls. 0344 499 1000. Sarah is in London, wants to have her say on, well, government failings. How long have you got, Sarah?
Well, I live in the borough right next to Hillingdon.
Yep.
And I moved into my house in 2019. My local shop, there's been 3 stabbings, 1 murder since then. Wow. My friend was murdered last year up on the High Street. Girl I know was murdered in Southall Park. The government are failing us. I'm so scared for my children. I have a 22-year-old son, and I'm begging him to move out of the country.
Oh my goodness, I feel for you.
What are these politicians doing to us? They're putting our children in so much danger. They're putting everyone in danger, and they're not doing nothing to help us.
And that's the thing a lot of us feel. How many is too many?
They're pushing us to do something that we don't want to do. We are peaceful people. British people never vote against their government.
Yeah.
They're going to push us to it because they're not listening to us. Our friends, our family are dying. I had a cousin murdered 20 years ago who was stabbed to death, and nothing's changed, Julia.
I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm sure I speak for everyone listening and watching right now. My heart goes out to you, and that's the reality.
I don't leave the house without a man.
You're that worried.
Well, everyone I know is getting stabbed. They're getting raped in parks. This is where I live, not where the politicians live.
Do you think that's part of the issue, that they don't live in the real world?
Keir Starmer, if you're listening to this, please do something. I'm petrified. I've never broken the law in my life. I've been a law-abiding citizen. I've been a civil servant. Please do something. It's us that are dying on the streets. You talk about being racist. We're not racist. My sister's mixed race. Yeah. I was a white child brought up in a mixed race family. Yeah. Nothing to do with race.
Exactly.
To do with our safety.
Sarah, I mean, 100%. We agree with you every single word, and I'm so sorry. I'm sending you a big hug over the ether, and I'm sure everyone else absolutely feels what you're feeling through, because that's the reality. It's real, Claire. It's real, because it actually happens. And again, you talk about what's happened to the 14-year-old girl who was sexually assaulted in Epping, and you talk about the dog walker knifed to death in Uxbridge, and I assume a father and son, a 14-year-old boy as well, both stabbed. These are real people. They've got real families. You talk about the Southport girls. They're not just that. People always talk about the 3 who died. It's more than the 3 who died. There were another 8 that were stabbed living. 10 times, 30 times, some of them. I mean, the 2 adults as well. This is real. I mean, this is real, and it's happening to real people, real families, real communities.
And I think sometimes we do forget that. And just to hear the pain in Sarah's voice, she's desperate, she's scared, she's lost people, and I think that we often forget that those left behind are the ones dealing with the pain.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My heart goes out to her. It really does.
Absolutely. Sending you our love, my darling. Andrew's in Hertfordshire. Andrew, what do you want to say?
Yeah, our heart goes. That's the reality of it. That lovely lady. Yeah. That's genuine, and the great tragedy is, Julia, you and I both know that'll never go across Starmer's desk, and he'll never ever speak to her, because he doesn't care. It's not politically, there's no political will to solve this. In relation to this business with the migrants and crime, that lovely lady who worked as a cleaner in a hotel was paying tax. Her tax money was funding the lifestyle of that individual, free food, free accommodation. So she went to work to fund his lifestyle, and he killed her. And that lovely lady, Sarah, we're past the point of no return. It's actually Hillsborough, awful, the Taylor report, seated stadiums. We have to get to a point now where people understand. They arrive, they go to Northern Ireland, they're put in a camp on the border, and they're kept there, and then they either walk back into Europe or we send them home, and we stop all flights from all countries
that won't accept them back. I think we are at desperate times now. People will not put up with anything less. Andrew, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Going to take a quick break, then we're going to be talking to Lord Dannatt. He's the former head of the British Army, about the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's plan to be using army barracks to house migrants. Is that really the solution? We'll talk about that up next. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk. Welcome back to the show. 12:38 is the time. Let's go straight to my next guest, Lord Dannett, the former head of the British Army, to talk about, well, all the migrant stories in the news, in particular Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, facing something of a backlash over her plan to house migrants in army barracks. A very good afternoon to you, Lord Dannett.
Hi, Julie. Good afternoon to you too.
Thank you so for joining us. What do you think of the plan? I mean, we are talking about only sort of, is it 900 migrants being moved out of hotels into army barracks from next month in Scotland and the south of England. It's a drop in the ocean compared to the 32,000 currently in hotels, and I think it's the 102,000 who are currently in some kind of accommodation in the backlog of asylum seekers. But is housing them in army barracks, is that the answer?
No, it's not the answer. Clearly, everyone's agreed that there is a problem, and that is housing migrants in comparative comfort in hotels, and therefore the government, I think, is quite right to do everything they possibly can to move them out into a more Spartan accommodation, which I think will be part of a detraction for people to come to this country. But just announcing that they're going to be put into disused army barracks is not the solution, particularly as I understand that the one in Inverness and the one at Crowborough, there's been no consultation with the local authorities or with local people about this sort of plan. And I think local people in any part of the country have an absolute right to be consulted, and for the authorities to reassure them that these people are going to be looked after properly. They're not going to be allowed just to roam around and cause mischief. So consultation is really important to reassure local people. If there are some surplus military bases that are suitable, well then fine. But of course, it's not just military bases. There are other facilities around the country that could be converted, probably putting porta cabins up and whatever, into accommodation to move these people out of expensive hotels. So no, military bases isn't the answer, but getting them out of the hotels is undoubtedly the right thing to try and do.
I think a lot of people prefer there are military bases than moving into, number 48 down the road, and then we wouldn't necessarily know where people were. However, it has been interesting when we had the BB Stockholm barge at one point. I think it was like 400 migrants, although I think more than 400 arrived in one day in the week that opened. And human rights lawyers went, no, it's not suitable accommodation. But we actually got serving military personnel in a similar style barge right now. And certainly when we look at the barracks, I can bet you bottom dollar that there'll be human rights lawyers saying the accommodation isn't suitable, but apparently it was perfectly okay for serving men and women in our military.
Well, I think that's a very fair point. Soldiers like myself have lived for a long time in rough and ready accommodation, porta cabins, corrimek cabins. I mean, we've lived like that on umpteen deployments in Northern Ireland and the Balkans and elsewhere.
Yeah.
So this is ridiculous if human rights lawyers are going to make those sort of points. I mean, the fact of the matter is people need to be accommodated in the dry. They should be fed. They don't need to live a life of luxury. But wherever these camps are established, local people need to be consulted. Local authorities need to be very much part and parcel of all this. And there needs to be a consensus amongst the people that this is a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah.
But more particularly, of course, the government has got to process asylum applications much faster, apply more civil servants to look at these enormous number of cases. And then when there are reasonable grounds to grant asylum, then do it and let the people get into the community, get a job, start working, start paying for themselves, start paying taxes, and stop being a burden on the state. Edward Solomon, who's the chief executive of the Refugee Council, has been very vocal on this, and I think he's right. I mean, there are some countries where it's pretty obvious we're going to be granting asylum to individuals. Well, look, let's do it and do it quickly, get them out into the community, get them working, let them pay their own way, and reduce the burden on the taxpayer to have to accommodate all these people.
Lots of people have been calling up today, and we've had, you might have just heard a caller, Sarah, talking about being, actually, petrified, scared about, family members and friends losing their life to violence on our streets. We've got this spate of attacks and sexual violence and knife crime from migrants. Latest, of course, a man who's accused, a suspect only at this point, of I mean, a lot of us will have seen the video, horrific frenzied knife attack, which left a man walking his dog who'd intervened when he saw a man and a 40-year-old boy being attacked, left dead. The other two still in hospital with their very serious injuries. A lot of people are just saying, what can we do to stop these people coming into our country in the first place? We don't have to deal with all the issues afterwards if we can stop them. A lot of people are saying, where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, you were the head of the military, of the British Army. It's amazing how often when there's a crisis, people say, right, let's get the army to come and sort it out, whether it's building, Nightingale hospitals or getting petrol to places if they, and there's some sort of strike. We call in the army. If you were in charge, how would you solve this problem?
Well, it's a very multifaceted problem. I think just calling in the army isn't the solution. Although, of course, if it was decided that we're going to erect camps, a bit like the Nightingale hospitals, then the military and logistics staff are very good at setting those up very quickly, and it could be done. Again, going back to what I was saying before, provided they are in areas where the local people have been consulted and the local authorities are very much part and parcel of that. But I think this is a much wider problem, and I think every possible strand of activity should be followed, in particular working with our partners in Europe, our allies in Europe, to bear down on the smuggling gangs. I think the French need to be more proactive on the beaches to stop the boats actually setting off in the first place. I think the companies that are manufacturing and selling these extraordinarily flimsy but large inflatable boats, they need to be borne down on. There can't be a good purpose in any factory producing those large flimsy boats.
Yeah.
Our partners and our friends in Europe should be bearing down on our behalf to make sure that it's more difficult for people to come here.
But that is only part of the issue. I mean, there's lots to talk about, put the Navy, I know the Army, but put the Navy into the Channel and send people back. Is that just pie in the sky?
Of course, the trouble is that doesn't really solve the problem either, because we've got border force vessels, we've got RNLI vessels, and as soon as these people take to the boats and go out into the open sea, then there is a duty, an internationally recognised duty, to save people's lives. So that's why when they get partway across the Channel, they're then rescued, as it were, and brought into Dover or brought into Folkestone or wherever they're going to go, and then they've made it. They're in this country. So taking more action to prevent them actually setting off in the first place is one of the many things that should be doing. Once they're here, as I said just now, they should be processed much more quickly. Those who've got legitimate claims should be allowed to work, get work, join the workforce, start paying taxes, finding their own accommodation and removing the burden. And those who shouldn't be here should be deported as quickly as possible.
We still have the issue, don't we, about the Afghan interpreters working alongside many of our British forces, helping to save their lives, and some who weren't even able to come to this country. Then we've got many whose names went on a list that was leaked by someone at the Ministry of Defence, and therefore people were able to come here who frankly had no right to be here. What do you make of the latest state of play of that? Because we're talking about huge cost compensation and goodness knows what being considered in those cases.
Well, I think all these things have got to be looked at in a proportionate fashion. I mean, we have brought a lot of entitled Afghans here, and that is the right thing to do. I think there are still many cases that have still got to be looked into. Afghans who have fled to Pakistan trying to send them back to Afghanistan. I think we've got to intervene in some of those cases. But I think we need to be very cautious and proportionate about saying, well, just because there was a data breach, we should be paying them huge amounts of compensation. Yes, these things are unfortunate. Sadly, we don't live in a perfect world, and breaches do happen, accidents happen, things do go wrong. So we need to be proportionate and sensible about all this.
Always good to talk to you, Lord Dannett, former head of the British Army. Thank you very much indeed. Claire Pearsall, I know you're coming from a military family. But the barracks, what do you make of the barracks being used?
The thing is that they are perfectly fine to put people in. I don't know why everybody has this against them. However, the ones that the government are looking to use have been disused for some time, and it's going to cost a lot of money to bring them back into actual
Wouldn't it be
use
better
again?
to spend that money,
just processing people?
Not border force, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Also, the main thing is you've got to put them in camps. Fine. I'd like people in detention camps, but don't want them able to walk freely.
And
I've been wanting to get to this all day. I really want to talk really, really briefly before we go to a break. Morning after pill. It's been in the news today. Thousands of women are going to be able to access the morning after pill from high street pharmacies in England, free of charge. It's the biggest change to sexual health services since the contraceptive pill. Health officials have said that's as of today. Nearly 10,000 pharmacies doing this. Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm normally very much in favour of anything with women's health that gives them choice, but, and it's a really big but, this feels a step too far, and it's going to encourage people to use that as a method of contraception than actually taking responsibility.
I'm really worried also about, say, teenage girls being told, oh, you can just go and get the contraceptive pill. There's no record at the GP of you going to it repeatedly.
And what happens
victims
if it
of abuse
work?
As well, using it, and exactly. And also, it's not good for you.
No, it isn't. And some people are going to respond very badly to that kind of drug in their system.
Some women, only women.
Sorry, women.
Only women. Don't pretend to work for the NHS, but it's people who take the morning after pill. It's only women.
But if that is a teenage girl who is in that position, has taken that and then falls ill, and nobody knows why.
No one knows that she's
her health is at risk.
Yeah,
I'm worried about
that. I think a lot of these, and again, being very casual about getting pregnant.
Yes.
And again, it's probably better for you than an unwanted pregnancy or abortion later on, but.
Yeah,
I don't know if the people pushing for this really know how this will work out. But anyway, I wanted to get to that. I mean to get to that all day. Sorry. Coming up, we're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to be talking to Maxwell Marlowe, Director of Policy at the YIMBY Initiative, the Yes in My Backyard Initiative, about Labour set to miss their home building target. Of course they are. Every government does. But it's even worse than that. That's up next. This is Talk.
Can I just say, I don't know if you're going to get here, but I want to get here. Them at the Dodgers game. Who in their right mind does not take their son to a baseball game? It's Harry and Meghan sitting there in front of Magic Johnson.
That's true.
They're front row.
I never thought about that.
And why does Harry not take you know who he took to the Super Bowl? Eugenie. Why does he never take his son to these types of events?
How odd.
Isn't that strange?
What a very interesting point.
Yeah.
There is a nauseating irony listening to Sadiq Khan, this pious, horrible man who for so long has deflected, failed to answer the question as to whether there are sexual grooming gangs operating in London. And now, of course, the Metropolitan Police are telling us that they've got 9,000 cases they're looking at.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:54 is the time. Let's talk about building houses. You'll know, I mean, for many years, our mantra of the show has been build more houses, and this government got into power pledging to build more houses. A grand total of 1.5 million, they said. It was 300,000 a year, up from the 250,000 that had been pledged by the Tories. Now, the Tories never hit their targets, and guess what? House building representatives have warned that the government isn't going to be able to build as many as they say they're going to build either. What a surprise. Let's talk to Maxwell Marlowe. He's the Director of Public Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute and also Director of Policy at the YIMBY Initiative, the Yes in My Backyard Initiative. Good afternoon to you, Maxwell.
Afternoon, Julia.
I mean, we kind of knew this already, but why isn't the government going to be able to build all the houses they say they want to build and that we need, which, by the way, isn't even touching the size of what we do need?
Absolutely. So we have a 6 million house deficit in this country. So 1.5 million, you're right, won't even touch the sides. But the house builders are correct as well. We're not going to be able to reach that target. No way, Jose. We'd have to be building 300,000 a year. We've only started on 50,000 houses so far this year, and we're almost 2 years into this parliament.
Hold on a minute, but wouldn't the government say, but we're changing the planning rules, that takes a long time, and once that's changed and people can't object to every single thing in their local community, then we'll go full speed ahead?
I mean, that would be great, and we really support that as an initiative. It has taken way too long. Let's remind ourselves, this is a huge majority for this government. They could have just rushed this through Parliament really easily in a little bill to really speed things up, but they haven't done so. It's been a big problem. But even when those laws come into place, which they will, and we're expecting another law from the Treasury, by the way, to be put through, a new bill, because these reforms aren't good enough yet. The actual construction sector has been so badly wounded over the past 30 years that they just can't physically build enough houses. There aren't enough, brickies, there aren't enough electricians, there aren't enough roofers, there aren't enough scaffolding companies.
And yet we've got a load of young men who are unemployed. It's almost like we should... Now, to be fair to the government, again, I try and be fair on this issue. They're instigating these sort of apprenticeships, these colleges to get young people doing the jobs that we need them to do. Media study degrees, not so much. But again, these are all long-term issues. They're not going to turn things around in the next few months, are they?
Definitely not. I mean, look, I'm a huge fan of Steve Reed. I think Steve Reed's doing some really good stuff. He's saying the right things. He's got a really good mantra: build, baby, build. But red hats don't build houses. Unfortunately, he needs to be pushing those policies forward at a really high rate. Yeah. So that's the first bit. The second bit is, you're right entirely there, Julia, about the how we can get more people on site in order to get those houses built. At the moment, our construction sector is one of the oldest in the country and in our history. Average age of someone working on a construction site is about 55. And our productivity is really low with those workers, and a lot of them retire quite early. So they need to really have an adventurous think about how they can secure those jobs for the future. And that means really brave planning reform, which I just don't think this government has managed to.
But the issue is, even when you have MPs who vote for planning reform when it's in their local area, they say, no in my backyard. And the reality is, a lot of developments are god-awful ugly. They're inappropriate. They provide, there's a load of extra people with extra cars, but there's no more parking spaces. There's no facilities. There's a planning application near me with huge, high-rise blocks, totally not fitted to the area. No extra schools being built. No extra GP surgeries. And people are just going, and we're going to lose a major local facility, a massive big supermarket and a car park. And no wonder people object to it. The point is, they're often building in the wrong places, the wrong kind of building, and it's ugly.
Well, I mean, that actually comes down to the way our planning system works and the price of land, fundamentally. So let's take, for example, the building safety regulator. I've just released a report on this. It's got cross-party support on how we can fix this. And the building safety regulator is so badly behaved when it comes to ensuring that new buildings can be built in a safe way that we're not building anything. No new application has gone into the regulator to build a high-rise since July. So the way in which we go about building means we are deprived of schools and hospitals and car parking spaces, and they end up being really quite ugly. If you look at, for example, just one last thing on this, Julia, if you look at our approved documents, which is basically the rules about what you are allowed to build, they are over 1,300 pages long. So how on earth are you supposed to build anything nice when the government's standing over your shoulder telling you what you can and can't do?
Absolutely. Maxwell Marlowe, so appreciate that from the Adam Smith Institute and the YIMBY Initiative. This is the problem, Claire Pearson. We can't build anything anywhere.
No, you can't. But you're right. People don't build things that are attractive and purposeful.
No. There's beautiful terraces that people, and the houses
Victorian
that people want to live in. Round my way, it's just all more flats, more one-bed flats over a railway line.
Or those indistinct sort of boxes, starter homes.